a short hop over to Europe, our drivers return to North America. And appropriately, they get right back into the IR18 IndyCar. This time, however, they must ply their skills in this open wheeler on a road course. While Road America is a popular venue in just about any car here on iRacing, that popularity will likely make it that much harder to find an edge. We'll see if anyone sniffs out an advantage as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the Major Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Adam Lindgren and Dawson Brock. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Road courses here in the U.S. only began to gain traction halfway through the 20th century, and Road America was on the forefront of that boom. To find out more about what this place is about, why don't we head down to our track guide? Welcome to Road America. Nicknamed America's National Park of Speed, it's easy to see why just by looking at how the track is laid out. Long straights are a major feature, and drivers will build up incredible momentum before they find themselves interrupted by tight 90-degree corners. In fact, for a 4-mile circuit, it has shockingly few turns. It also has little in the way of variation in layouts. The main course is only broken up once with a single chicane added in the bend version. But don't take this to mean that it's a boring track. Elevation change happens many times over a lap, with a few places taking you into corners which are quite blind. But two of the turns on the back half of the course are perhaps the most distinctive. One is the carousel with its more than 180-degree radius. It just feels like it never stops. The other is the kink. Terrifyingly fast with very little runoff, it can end someone's race in a flash. As you'd expect, the heavy braking zones make for some ideal overtaking spots. Turn 5 sees plenty with its downhill entry. The hurried downs can offer drivers a chance at a sneak attack if you're brave, and then Canada Corner gives you one last shot before the lap is over. It's no wonder major organizations such as IMSA, IndyCar, NASCAR, and the SCCA all host major races here. All in all, many drivers rate this track as the best track in North America. Many who hop in the seat and try it can quickly understand why. You see some of the sights around here at Road America, but Adam, this is going to be a fun one, and I imagine probably a popular one for these drivers.
Definitely. I mean, this is the location of some fantastic races in the Indy Racing League, and Road America is one of the most dynamic tracks the IndyCars visit during this year, and one of the most technical combinations the majors drivers will race this season. With just over 4 miles or 6.5 kilometers in length, but only 14 turns, this track boasts a surprising challenge for any vehicle that visits here, but especially the Dallara IR18, which the drivers will be manning today. This undulating track likes to throw in elevation changes during its braking and passing zones, and its small 2.5 lane track make passing a real challenge, but not undoable. And with 10 push-to-pass activations available to our drivers, expect to see a decent amount of side-by-side today. But the real challenge won't be the track. It'll be the fuel game and the oil temperatures, but we'll touch on those things in just a bit later, Joe.
Absolutely. Now, the championship well underway has been a little bit one-sided this season, especially in the Drivers' Championship. Christian Challoner with a decent lead out to 207 points over Travis Worling. He's taken the lion's shares of the wins here in the Americas region. Driscoll, Wade Hayes, and of course Brian Barnes rounding out the top 5. But interesting to note that Challoner, Worling, and Driscoll all took wins for their respective classes at Le Mans last round. So really not much of a change between those three. Dawson, however, you have the team's championship. You want to give us an update on that?
Yep, right now we have the Kinetic Americas team sitting at the top, and then just past them, 334 points down, Unorthodox Motorsport sits in P2. Then we go a little bit farther down to Dog Bear Red, sitting over 1,000 points back from the first spot. Then you have Sector 5 in a battle kind of similar to the top 1 and 2 spot, just a little over 300 points back. Then sits Dog Bear White comfortably in the 5th position. Right below them, Dog Bear Blue, people they probably know pretty well just off of your screen, sit in 6th. So right now that is the situation in the teams standings.
Yeah, next up is going to be the Legends, and these guys, this is where some of the interesting factors are. Dog Bear Red and White capturing those first two spots, as we mentioned last time around. Brian Barnes still up there with Rob Gall in second place. Brian Bennett only 180 points out of the lead, so, and Kevin Hill only 20 points back of Brian Bennett. So the top four really are pretty much inseparable at this point. If you take a look at how the points are divvied out for the majors. Wayne Hutchison just a little bit too far back to be a real factor for first place at the moment, but we're not that far into the season. Expect him to be challenging up there for the lead shortly.
Because each race in the Majors Series is unique, we have race details since they always do a different combo each time. And we are in round 8 out of 14. Now, this one is going to be laps based, 55 laps for the race, just like they do at the real one here at Road America for IndyCar. In the, of course, modern Dallara IR18. They do have an incident limit, though. At 26, they will be disqualified. So they do have to be careful. It's just about half the laps there. So you can't really get too sloppy with it. And they have a spare car if they get any sort of damage so they can pop in. Considering we're expecting 2 stops during this race, we will probably see them use at least one if they get it at some point before their final pit stop, just to keep the car in spick and span order. Now, as always, we have the charity in this race as well. They have a charity each race, and that is, of course, the Myelin Repair Foundation. Since 2004, the Myelin Repair Foundation has funded basic research towards potential myelin repair treatment for those who suffer from MS. Their focus is on identifying myelin repair biomarkers, and has helped speed up drug development and clinical trials. To find out how you can help, more information is available at myelinrepair.org. They raise funds for these charities each round by basically, if you want to do more than your one qualifying that you're allowed in this series, you have to pay for that extra qualifying. And of course, this time they have chosen for that money to go towards the Myelin Repair Foundation. So big thanks to the majors once again raising money for a good cause. That pit strategy we've been talking about both here on air and before the race, Dawson, seems to be the big talk coming into this thing. I have a feeling that that is going to be a huge determining factor.
Absolutely, and we kind of talked about it. It's 113 run split, and then the rest 14. That's about where it shakes out. So the real question is, when do you take that shorter stint? Do you take it right away when you have to do that full pace lap and use a little bit of fuel? Because here at Road America, it is a full one. You start on the front stretch, and you're going to end it on the front stretch. Or do you maybe push it and save all that extra fuel on that first run, go 14, and then use it later on in the race for a quicker pit stop to maybe jump somebody in the order? Who knows? It should be really interesting to see, but you need to be able to run the rest only 113. If you run 213s, you're going to have to save 15 on one of your runs, and you're going to lose a lot of time. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out for the drivers.
Really curious to watch and see who is able to save fuel and do it to great effect. And Adam, this is, not a huge jump from running at Le Mans. Of course, it's still a track with a lot of long straights and high speeds, but compared to the last time they ran the IndyCar, I have a feeling those who aren't used to it on a road course are going to be in for a rude awakening, if you will.
Yeah, because of the amount of straights that you have on this course, there's realistically 3 very long straights that you can use to your capabilities of trying to pass. You really have to maximize every single opportunity you have through the corners. And that is something that, if you're not used to the way that the car behaves, can be a real challenge. So we do have some drivers who are extremely used to handling these Indy cars, especially the one at the top of the board right now, Austin Espedy. I raced with him in an ill-fated league a couple of years back, and he is an animal in these cars. That man, expect to see him up there at the front very shortly following the start of the drop of the green flag, for sure.
Lionel Callisto out there warming up. Qualifying has already happened during the week, as I implied earlier. So this is just the drivers getting some more practice. One thing I'm also wondering about, Dawson, is the tires. Now, I know they're sort of limited on that pit strategy, but did you notice anything between the overcut and the undercut? Because in real IndyCar, I know they're kind of notorious for the overcut being a thing.
Yeah, and there are a couple factors. One, we only have one tire type. We don't have the two like they do in real IndyCar. All you have are the ones you see, the black walled hard compound, I guess as they would call them. So that already takes away some of that factor in that cut and possibly playing strategy on how far you want to go on fuel and stuff. But really, I was actually lucky enough. I had a guy about a second behind me, so I kind of got a good feel for it. And there really isn't much, at least for what we were comparing. A couple factors in that, the draft. Two, you got to factor in that if you go that extra lap, you're going to have a much lighter car. The third, and I think the most important factor in this, is the tire model. This is not on the new tire model that almost all of iRacing is on. This is on the old tire model. So heating up the tires quick isn't as much of a problem with this tire model. They're up right away in that first lap. You're not actually on cold tires like you are on any other car, like we saw at Le Mans last time we were on the majors. So no, not really. I did not see much of an effect, but it'll be interesting to see the time that it takes to fill up the car and other factors into how guys file out, but I would expect them to file out about where they were running before the pit stop.
Now, fans of IndyCar are probably familiar with another aspect of this style of racing, which is the push to pass. But Adam, just in case we have fans coming in who don't follow the Real World Series, this is going to be a new feature here for these drivers to try and manage. Would you talk a little bit about what is involved in this?
Yeah, push to pass is a real challenge for these drivers because they only get 10 applications of it, and once you hit it, if you let off on the gas past 75%, then you lose that opportunity. So you really have to make sure that you hit it exactly when you want to try and make a pass. And so it gives you a little bit of time and a little bit of extra horsepower that allows you to push past. That's exactly what it's called, the push to pass. It allows you to push past another driver and get some extra horsepower behind them, tuck in behind them with a toe, and then launch out for a good opportunity to make a pass.
Let's see if that does much for the drivers and if it elicits any opportunities, as we're now watching Eric Smith down here in ninth, currently in the points. We're watching Callisto earlier. Worth noting that he is not very far behind Brian Barnes in the Americas Pro region. So just 6th in the points and looking for more good results here today as we now ride on board with Lionel, with, of course, the new windscreen that they applied recently here in the sim that is now used in real life as well on these cars.
Yeah, and Joe, you see that blinking green. We're going to be able to see when they're on the push to pass. That's Lionel Callisto on the push to pass right now. Now, in practice, they're able to use push to pass as many times as they'd like, but during the race, we'll see them use that only when they need to make a pass, and they only have 10 applications of those.
So it'll require a little bit of saving for drivers to know when they want to use them and when it will come in handy. Lionel kind of pulls over there, so I guess he's giving himself a little bit of track space here in the warm-up, which is almost over. Now, if you want to follow all the action, because we have a few more cars than a real Indy race would have here, with 33 lining up today, you can find it at gsrc.tv, at live timing and scoring, where even if your favorite driver is not on screen, you can follow their progress and see exactly how they're doing, as the 77 goes a little bit over the edge on the final corner, unfortunately. It looks like, it seems to me, just like the real thing, Dawson, these cars will find that edge very, very quickly and suddenly.
Yeah, definitely. And there are plenty of places on this track due to the natures, turns 1 and 2, Canada corner, places where it's easy to put 2 tires off and catch some of that not so nice content, the grass, the sand, all that stuff. Turn 5 was a big problem for a lot of my teammates today. It seemed like that hard braking downhill part into that sand trapped area off to the side of the track. It's really easy to just try and push it through that corner, but you can't because it's so easy to lock up these Indy cars just a little bit. The rear maybe snap out on you. Maybe one of the fronts lock up and kind of carry through the turn. So many places to make mistakes. We'll have to see which one is most popular with this race today.
For any of the drivers out there hoping that Christian Challoner is finally going to have himself too much of a challenge. Well, I mean, Espedy is a good shot for it, obviously, but Challoner's still running in second. And since Espedy is not in the hunt currently for the championship, the Drivers' Championship, that means that guys like Warling, Driscoll, Hayes are going to have to hope for something to happen or to get a burst of speed compared to what we're seeing in the warm-up. Of course, Espedy does start a little bit farther down the field, but It seems like he has got plenty of pace, and it's, as we were talking about, the race strategy will have a big effect out here today. There's Challoner on screen, racing for the Kinetic team as usual. 10 seconds left in our warm up. Another driver to watch out for is going to be Liam Quinn. Now, typically we see him a little bit farther up on the ovals in the IndyCar, but still, he is one of the known masters of this machine. So hopefully he should be able to show that off a little bit today, and what is a quite beautiful little paint scheme he's got on there. Now, the grid is now set, so let's go through our starting order here today for round 8 in the majors. Christian Challoner starts on the pole with Eric Smith in P2. Row 2 has Steve Driscoll in third with Andrew Waring in fourth place. Travis Warling, P5 for him with Kevin Hill to his outside in sixth. Trevor Clement starts seventh, followed by Clark Archer on the outside of that row in eighth. Then you got row 5, it's Dick Mueller and Lionel Calisto rounding out the top 10. Adam?
Jimbo Pfeiffer is going to start off 11th place with Liam Quinn starting off in the 12th position. Michael Morley is going to start off right behind them in row 7 alongside Jeff Schmeier in 14th. Then we have Brian Bennett 15th and Austin Espedy in 16th position. Then we have in row 9 Brian McGreevy alongside Nick Kuhn for 18th position. Then Bob Beltrami in 19th position, and 20th is going to be rounded out by Lyndon Swady.
Then to the 11th row, Wade Hayes is going to start on the inside. Bradley Sexton going to start 22nd. Then Steve Bammer, Bradley Haley, Adam Hallock, and Ryan Steele will share the 13th row. Rob Gall, Eric Antilli, David Warner, Johnny Nichols round out your top 30. Then we have Brian Barnes, Justin Morton, and Wayne Hutchinson going to round out the final rows of our grid.
A full pace lap for the drivers to try and prep and get ready. You were talking about this as well, Dawson, that this pace lap actually affects the fuel strategy, which is something I hadn't really considered before, and we don't often see in terms of racing here on iRacing.
Yeah, and I think the fact that this is a 4-mile circuit kind of plays into that. And I was with you, Joe. I didn't think about this until a teammate of mine mentioned it and said, hey, I'm taking that first in as my third turn. I'm like, why? He's like, well, the pace lap, you're going to use fuel and you're going to have to do more saving on that first run. And I thought, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So we're going to get to see here who are the guys who are going to kind of take that into consideration, make sure they save enough on this pace lap and are able to maybe run 14 laps on this first one and use that 13 stint later on. Or do they just kind of cut your losses and don't save as much on this one, use it up, and then just go on to 14s for the rest of the race? I noticed you didn't lose a lot of time. It actually kind of made it easier. You were backing up your corners, I think, was by saving. So we'll see who's best at that. And I'm sure guys like Liam Quinn, guys who know this car, Christian Challoner, they're going to do great at that.
Take a glance at the weather as well. And the good news is, Adam, it looks like things have gone down since practice. It was as high as 116 Fahrenheit I saw earlier. So I think conditions at least getting a little more ideal, though. It looks kind of toasty to me.
Yeah, and that's going to become a problem. There was one driver in the European split, Riley Thompson, who unfortunately, in the draft of some of the drivers up ahead of him, overheated his engine. So that's something that some of the drivers are going to have to look at, especially depending on how much of the radiator intake they've left open to try and get some speed there. So these drivers are going to have to be very careful when it comes to the temperatures of their car, especially the oil temperature. And another thing to keep in mind on this pace lap is you don't want to follow too close to the guys ahead of you, because also in the European split there was a little bit of an incident that happened on the pace lap that ended up sidelining one of the drivers even right before the start. So it's something that you just have to keep in mind. The race has already begun, even though we haven't gone green yet.
Now, Dawson, speaking of following closely behind, what was the wake like in some of the places? This isn't a track usually associated with that, but as they go around the carousel, that's one spot in particular. I kind of wonder if it's going to be hard to stay close to the car ahead.
It definitely played into it. I felt like I was a lot slower in the carousel in that dirty air, but you're able to make it up with this nice long stretch running into Canada and plus with the kink, so you kind of make it back up. But it definitely plays a factor into your tires and how it works through the long stints. So I think a lot of guys are going to want to sit in that wake in order to help save, but you got to think of it in other terms. The carousel is going to be a hard place, and it might kind of hurt setting up passes into this area of the track.
Interestingly, noticing that Ryan Steele is not out on the pace lap. Not sure what happened. Hopefully, he can get back in here and try and take part in this race. Otherwise, we're only going to have 32 here today for 55 laps around Road America. Very large field, at least for IndyCar around here. So the real ones only typically have fields of 20 to 25 on the road courses. So as the Porsche pace car leads them around, Christian Challoner is going to have control with Eric Smith to his outside. Let's see what kind of jump he can get on the green. Pace car getting ready to peel in. There he goes. Challoner waiting patiently, keeping them stacked up, and now he goes. Few in the back really got caught out by that. In fact, second place Eric Smith already has Steve Driscoll right behind him, and he covers him off as soon as he sees he's clear, making sure that he takes the inside as they come down to turn one here at Road America. Top five already, single file. Lionel Kalisto looking on Kevin Hill, but that doesn't work out. A bit of a spin in the back. Looks like Morley is involved in that. Otherwise, I think we're good.
Yeah, aside from Morley's spin, looks like everyone's doing okay right now. Everyone making it through the first couple of corners fairly clean. It looks like Morley didn't end up too worse for wear now, but it's quite bunched up in the back of the field because of that, but strung out all the way down through about the 23rd position.
They approach down into turn 5 under cold tires. A few drivers going in there a little bit hot, but otherwise I'm not seeing any dramas into there either. So it looks like everybody's got the memo. It's a long race, and a few taking their time, a few having a little bit of melee there into turn 1, but otherwise Christian Challoner still leads. Eric Smith in second, following with Steve Driscoll currently in third.
Kind of a chaotic start there. You talked about Michael Morley kind of having his situation, but his car does look okay, so he should be good to go and not have to declare that front wing.
They head down to Canada Corner for the first time. Looks like that draft is working pretty well, like you said, because Smith caught up quite a bit, and then under braking, look at that. Both of the kinetic cars of Driscoll and Warren incredibly strong on the binders and gained a lot of time on that green and white number 32.
Just a lot of drivers seem to be struggling a little bit right now with the setup of their cars. They're just not quite comfortable towards the middle and back of the pack, as we see Christian Challoner continuing to pull that lead. But look how much Eric Smith is gaining right now. He continues to gain as they go down the front stretch in that draft.
And pardon me, that's unorthodox cars in Warren and Driscoll. That is chasing right now with the pink and the red flares on the sides of their front wing. Back onto the Moraine sweep one more time, and very good exit from both Smith and Challoner puts them out of reach from both Driscoll and Warren.
It looks like everyone's mostly behaving themselves right now. We have a little bit of a passing attempt going on further back in the pack. That's unfortunately not going to happen right now, but wow, all these cars, everyone just looking like they're taking this fairly calm at the moment.
Had a bit of an off track for Steve Bammer, just a self-error. No need for a replay. He came back on, is now fallen to 29th. Fans of Ryan Steele, he made it onto the track, and it is such a long lap around here that he's actually made it onto the track without losing that first lap.
And he's tucked back there in the 33rd position, so he's going to be able to survive that first lap and do so with efficiency. So quite a few of the drivers, just look back from Christian Challoner. Christian's got a pretty decent gap over Eric Smith, enough of a safety net that he's not going to get past here, but he has to keep pulling that gap out of every one of these corners that leads to a long straight. Otherwise, Eric will definitely take the lead. But I don't know, Dawson, it just sure doesn't look like people are saving right now, but I could be wrong.
You know what, and that might be them trying to take that 13 laps right away. Maybe they all think that is the strategy to go. But we had a great shot there of just how much the weight kind of affects these cars. You saw through the carousel, all the cars kind of falling back, and then coming right back as they head into Canada Corners. You ride with Trevor Clement up this long front stretch with that big hill, and then coming into a hard braking zone here. Very easy to mess up.
Did have a pass into Canada Corner as well. Quinn managed to get by Kalisto. That was for 10th position between those two. Oh, and there was a little look to the inside. Was that Clark Archer there?
Yeah, I believe Clark Archer did take a look to the inside, but unfortunately couldn't do anything about it. Now he's fallen back a good 6/10 from Kevin Hill up ahead of them. But look, another look to the inside there from Steve Driscoll on Eric Smith. That was for the second position. Nothing doing at the moment, but these guys are getting a little feisty.
And Kalisto loses another one. Espedy now goes by him. So the number 2 is losing a couple positions very quickly. I wonder if this is due to the fuel saving. The former champion, usually not the type to really bleed positions this early.
Yeah, but at the same time, Austin Espedy is one of those very
Cars
fast
off.
drivers. Yes, that is Trevor Clement.
Did he catch the wall here? I think he did.
Definitely, he's lost his front right wing, so that's going to be a big problem. That's going to be a couple seconds of the pits for him to replace that. Let's see it right now on the replay. Oh, he gets help.
Who was that getting into him there? Trying to check real quick. That was Dick Mueller, actually.
I believe that's a teammate, isn't that?
That'll be awkward for sure.
And it's a very, very light touch. Yeah,
I don't
that's
even know if there was a
66
touch.
Racing.
It could have just been Arrow.
But boy, that puts Trevor Clement into a really tough situation. There's really no gap in the strategy in order to kind of make up that pit stop that he's going to take right now. This pit stop, he's always going to have one extra pit stop compared to the rest of the field. So a really rough start for him.
Things have closed up at the front of the field. Challoner leads Smith, leads Driscoll, leads Waring, and you could probably count Warling in there as well. So top 5. And I'm wondering if this is actually fuel saving, if they're just tucking up behind the car ahead and trying to use that slipstream to keep up. You have to wonder if that's going to make life harder for Challoner since he's pushing the hole for everybody else.
I mean, it'll definitely make life challenging for Challoner, but it's also going to continue to compress the field as Warling is now well attached to the back of this group in that 5th position. So they're actually going significantly slower than he was, but they're definitely fuel saving. I would expect that Andrew Waring is the one doing the most fuel saving at the moment. He has not challenged Steve Driscoll for that 3rd position for quite some laps, so he's just taking his time right now.
And it makes sense if they're able to make this stint go 14 and Challoner has to go 13, you're able to use that shorter run maybe later on. As we see maybe a pass here. Steve Driscoll looking to the inside, then a little bit of a block from Smith. And they're going to just wait it out for another corner.
Steve didn't fight that too hard, though. So I wonder if he's not in that much of a hurry to try and make a pass like we were just talking about. If the fuel saving is a lot more important than track position for the time being.
Well, Joe, remember that push to pass, while it does give you a horsepower advantage, it gives you a fuel disadvantage. In order to get that horsepower, you eat a lot more fuel. So in order to try and make a pass on the push to pass, that's going to be a problem. Bob Beltrami's around in the background, though.
Ooh, the salami is off in the final corner. Oh, and he almost got hit by Steve Bammer. Bammer came around the corner just as he was returning onto the track. That probably gave the poor number 8 a heart attack. Let's watch it. Here's Driscoll initially, and then Bammer in car number 8 will be the one we'd love to see an onboard here to see how close he gets from inside the cockpit.
Ooh, Driscoll definitely Bob Beltrami definitely got a little bit of help there, and here comes Bammer coming up to the scene of the crime. He's going to not be expecting this.
I was inches to spare. So he sneaks through, so no harm, no foul, at least on that one. We got quite a battle in 18th. Oh, things are very stacked up there. And I think Haley is going to come out the best of it. He gets by Nick Kuhn, who's also going to get overtaken by Nichols. In fact, making a 3rd car. Morley is able to get by. Positions just going away quickly for the number 19. He's going to lose another one now to Halleck.
And Nick just trapped offline, and that's causing him to get a lot of dirt on those tires. He can't seem to get the traction down. He's going to finally be able to get all that dirt off of the tires now, as we see. I believe that is Johnny Nichols trying to make a move. No, that's Michael Morley trying to make a move on Johnny Nichols here.
Wow, crazy stuff there. And just as that happened, unfortunately, we don't need a replay. Steve Bammer, after his narrow escape, sent himself into the wall with a little bit of an error. Meanwhile, coming out of Canada corner here, this battle continues on. And that is Johnny Nichols in the white machine that you see being chased by the red and black of Morley.
And something to take a look at here is that these guys are further back than the lead pack guys are separated, and they're trying to make moves and make passes here. So that just tells you that lead top 5 guys are just saving fuel at this point, because these guys in the back are taking every opportunity. They're within 3/10 to try and make a pass.
Another one down for Nichols as Morley snatches P18 now. And back up to the front, you can see Eric Smith holding on to the back of Christian Challoner, getting very close to the gearbox of Smith. Driscoll has been leering and looking, but still no pass attempt that we've seen successfully made.
Yeah, Challoner just chilling out front. He's definitely not getting the fuel savings that the guys behind him are. Eric Smith has decided to back off a little bit from Challoner and is clearly coasting out of some of these corners a little bit more. Driscoll seems tempted to try and make a move on Smith. Let's see what he does at this time by. He's got to run.
He's closing, but not incredibly quickly. Smith once again at first a little bit defensive, and a tiny peek from Driscoll doesn't produce anything behind them. Side-by-side action between Hill and Archer for 6th position, and around the outside of Bill Mitchell Bend, Archer with a brave move for that number 29 car.
Yeah, Liam Quinn now looking for an opportunity as Archer starts to streak away in the distance. Quinn got a good run off the final corner. Here he comes up the outside. I don't think he's going to need a push pass to make this work, but Clark Archer staying on the left side, meaning that Kevin Hill's getting a decent draft off of him, so Liam Quinn's not going to get this job done before the first corner. That's Austin Espedy looking for a way through as well. Kevin Hill takes it deep into the corner. They're going to go too wide. I don't think Liam's going to get it done. He's got to slot in behind Kevin Hill.
Robust defense from Hill, and there he comes back at him. Quinn still attacking. This time he's going to get it as Hill swings wide. Espedy takes advantage. Dick Mueller is in there, and I think he's going to be able to snatch this one up. They're both by, but Espedy, whoa! Sudden dive down to the inside for Dick Mueller, and actually making a little side-to-side contact with Espedy. Elbows are out.
A little bit of sign of displeasure there from Dick Mueller to Austin Espedy, saying, I don't like that, bro, but they're both able to make it out of there clean, but I don't expect Austin to hang out behind Dick for much longer. He's going to be challenging him because I think Austin wants to keep climbing. He's already up to that 10th position.
Stark contrast between the leaders, how they're racing, and how we're seeing the mid-pack drivers sort this out. Speaking of which, we are actually halfway through this first stint. Now, whether that will be 13 laps or 14 laps is yet to be seen for who. We continue to stay on Liam Quinn. Now, Austin Espedy rather on the back of Dick Mueller, giving it another look down into Canada corner, but then thinks twice about it.
Back at the front here, Steve Driscoll, he had another look into Canada corner, and he seems like he's able to do it. Wait, we have
Travis Worling's off. Huge hit.
He managed to avoid hitting anything, but he's lost a lot of time.
Oh, he clips the grass right here with that left rear tire, and that ends up spinning him around. He's able to keep it out of the wall, but that was a scary moment for Worling.
From a top 5 down to 11th. That is costly. They will not have cautions, full course cautions, in this race. It is just local only, and even that hopefully won't slow the drivers down. It is informational. But so that makes it now 4 up at the front. Challenger, Smith, Driscoll, and Waring are those who are left. Let's jump back to who has now inherited 5th, and well, it's Clark Archer. Liam Quinn has caught up to the back of him. We ride on the gearbox of Clark, the number 29, watching carefully. Had a little bit more contact. Brian McGreevy got pushed off by Bradley Haley into turn 6, it seems, and McGreevy had the worst of it. Let's take a look at the replay on that. So you're going to see them heading down into turn 5 here. And then it's coming into turn 6. That's McGreevy on screen, the car ahead. He's going to get a shove from the teal car behind and just pushes him right off course.
believe that's the second incident that Haley's kind of been involved in, so he might have to do a little bit of looking with the stewards later on this week. They don't have any immediate penalties that they give out in this series. It's all done after the race, so we're going to move here to P2.
Whoa!
This racing has been tight
What
all
happened to
race.
Mueller?
A wreck between Espedy and Mueller coming through turn 1 is going to leave Mueller on the side of the road. Espedy with some left front wing damage.
Wow, and that was bizarre because Espedy made very slight contact at first, and it was just trying to save it. Oh my goodness, Mueller nearly caught that one.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Espedy was trying to make the move on the inside. Mueller was headed towards the apex, and I don't think Espedy had gotten alongside him quite yet. So unfortunately, that's going to send Mueller into the wall hard.
Just had his nose in. He was given barely enough room, but ran out of it in the end.
Yeah, hit that curb and it bounced him back out.
Ooh, and Sexton's not happy with Brian Bennett. I think some contact between them just now into turn 5. Sexton comes out the worst of it. He's now being chased by Kuhn and Mueller behind him. Let's take a look at that one. How things have changed. This started out so calm.
Bennett coming back. Oh my goodness. Bennett coming back on track and ends up getting into Sexton. That is a tough moment there. Sexton looks like he's trying to challenge back.
They're not rallycross cars. They're not made to jump up into the air that high and continue racing as a whole car. So Sexton certainly expressing his displeasure as he is at least able to keep racing. Back up to Challoner and Smith, Driscoll, and Waring. Still all in a line. They've now separated from Clark Archer in 5th by about 4 seconds. And these 4 seem to be playing the fuel game very calmly and strategically.
Just a note on Austin Espedy. You know, we mentioned that he does have front wing damage, but he is going to stay out. He stayed out this last lap, and I'm guessing he's going to go all the way to that lap 13 mark just so that he doesn't end up having to take that extra pit stop later on.
Oh, and Quinn just got Archer. I believe that was down into turn 5.
Yes,
Archer out braking himself a little bit here.
And then immediately following that, if we could go to Jimbo Pfeiffer in the 00 machine, he gets sent off in the same corner just a couple seconds afterward.
A little bit of a look down there, cleanly to the inside, and Archer unfortunately finds himself off into the runoff. So we're going to come back live. So didn't quite get to see Pfeiffer, unfortunately, with his spin. That did send him down to...
Ooh, we got a pass for P2. Eric Smith just got passed by Steve Driscoll into Canada.
And we are towards the end of the stint here, so maybe this is enough for Driscoll. He says, all right, I've saved my fuel. I can make it to 14. It's time to turn it on.
Now Smith under attack now from another unorthodox car, Andrew Waring.
But he's holding behind.
Peeking out a little bit to get some clean air. Smith got a really good draft off of Driscoll that time, but I think Smith made a mistake, and that's what allowed Driscoll to get by because they lost some time to Challoner through that exchange.
Challoner's still sitting pretty. We're on lap 11 now. I very much want to see whether or not Christian can manage to both be this fast up at the front and save enough for a 14-lap stint here. We currently right on board with the 4th in line of this train. This is Waring, diving it down into turn 5.
Jimbo Pfeiffer was able to make it back to the pits. He lost his nose cone in that incident, so he's going to have to replace his nose and get back out there. But he's off sequence by a couple laps. That's going to be a real struggle for him to get back on sequence.
As we stick with the Kinetic driver, the current European region champion here, looking now for a America's championship here in the majors, swinging it down through the kink and towards Canada corner.
Oh! Yes, Warren got pushed off by Eric Smith through that section, so he's back on track and following in the tire tracks of Eric Smith, but it got very stressful for those two.
And that's where we saw a mistake from Smith before that gave the position to Driscoll. So he seems to not like that back half of the course. Up the front stretch one more time, on to lap 12 now.
I got a report that Bob Beltrami had a self-spin. We don't need to go to it, but he's heavily damaged. He's going to have to take his pit stop now.
Boy, a lot of drivers are off sequence here. Steele has been in and out, as well as Clement. Pfeiffer recovered. Bammer is still racing. So all 33 cars are still out there since we have that spare car. It's just, unfortunately, there's a few that are not on the right strategy. Halleck now joins them. Why is Halleck in? I don't think we've seen him have an issue, have we?
No, we haven't seen him have an issue. We know Eric Antilli has had a couple of issues himself, but Adam Halleck is our first car really, not off strategy to be in the pits, but he is off strategy because he's just starting lap 12.
And behind him, that is Antilli as well, that we just mentioned. Looks like Antilli, did Antilli not take a spare car? Is that still damaged there? Interesting. So in third place, things very tight. Are we going to see Smith overtaken one more time? A little bit under threat from Waring, but he's not close enough. Espedy, though, might have a shot on Warling for 7th. In fact, I think Warling just got by Espedy.
And that's going to be due to that front left wing damage that Alston Espedy has on his nose.
He did. There was a big mistake from Espedy, the 77, going off track down at the hurry down. This is going to open the door for Warling, and he's going to sweep around the outside of the carousel. There's the off track. Thankfully didn't go too far off. He's able to get it back on, but look at how much time it lost him, and without asking twice, there goes Warling.
And Dawson, how hard is it to drive around when you have so much wing damage on the front?
I had an experience with this in an official race. I damaged it up and I thought, I can go for a little bit. It doesn't look that bad. It makes a big difference. It'll mess up these fast corners, especially stuff like the carousel, makes the car push so bad. So keep watching this front crew to see who decides to duck into the pits. Has Challoner, like you said, Joe, has he saved enough, or has he just decided not to save on this stint and make it 13? And have the people behind him saved enough in his draft?
Here's another interesting point. They've actually lost ground to Liam Quinn. He was 4.5 seconds back before. It's now 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, and actually, Driscoll just made an attempt on Challoner going into hurry downs and was unsuccessful, so Challoner was able to hold him off there, but seems like Driscoll might be eager to get past before the pit stop.
I don't blame him. He wants that track position now that he's saved enough, probably. Behind them, things getting awful tight between Smith and Waring, but he doesn't overtake down into Canada Corner. This is the moment of truth. Challoner, who has been ahead of all three of these cars this entire stint, does he pit? No, he's going to stay out.
Dawson, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that plays a big thing into, like what you said, Joe, Liam Quinn catching these guys. He's got to be saving quite a bit in order to make it 14 on this first run with leading this group of drivers. So good for him, though. This sets Challoner into a great position. He's able to use that 13 stint whenever he needs it or whenever he feels like maybe he has to pass someone to get back into that lead.
Ooh, we got a number of takers, though, on the first stops. Archer is in. It looks like Espedy pitted, Callisto, Hill, Hayes, Swaby. In fact, wow, almost everybody I'm seeing now. Morley, Warling, they were both able to keep on. Schmeier is able to stay out, but it is a huge chunk of cars that could not save enough fuel to go 14 on the first stint.
Well, while the leaders were out chilling, everybody in the back of the pack, which we covered, were just battling in amongst each other. So they were all using a ton of fuel right there. So it makes sense to me why everyone's pitting right now at the lap 13 mark, whereas these leaders are going 14. And some of the guys behind Christian, I mean, I don't know, Dawson, could they go a lap longer even?
I really don't think so. I mean, at least I saw the one person who ran 15, and he was well off the pace. He was running in the 46s, 47s. These guys are running 44s. Even with that draft, I don't think that's enough to push them past that extra lap point.
We're already through Canada corner, up and over Bill Mitchell Bend. So just one more corner to find out if anybody is somehow magically able to do so. I'm with Dawson, though. I don't think we'll see it. And Challoner's in, Driscoll's in. Yep, all 4 of them down into the lane. So you were right. It's whoa, and Smith nearly gets into him as that was Beltrami off to the side as well.
Yeah, we just saw it there on screen. Bob Beltrami spun coming into the pits, and he had to get out of the way to make sure that the leaders could come in clean.
I was just about to say this could be a very interesting pit entrance with the way it is here. It's so narrow and 4 cars coming in at full speed. Sure enough, but Bob Beltrami has retired from the race as a result, so sad to see that.
So our highest pitter before this was Clark Archer. We'll see if he returns into 6th or if he's able to jump anybody. Wow, almost all out at the same time. However, our leader might get jumped, not quite, as Smith tried to go around him on the pit exit. And Driscoll also almost attacked by his teammate Waring, but they're going to stay in position except for Smith regaining 2nd place.
Yeah, Smith had to back out of it because Christian Challoner was up ahead of him. He couldn't cross the yellow line to make that pass, so he had to get out of the gas, and that ended up being the deciding factor right there. But Driscoll and Waring now nose to tail once again. Liam Quinn, through this exchange, having taken that earlier pit stop, is now only 2 seconds behind these guys.
Be everybody for the first stops, just the last few are in and out. I think Clark Archer lost out a little bit to Liam Quinn because he was battling with him earlier, and there's about 4 seconds for that 5th place now.
How about Liam Quinn? He started this race in 12th position, and he's been able to work up those 7 spots and then still be just off the tail of these leaders. I mean, a great run for him that I think needs to be recognized.
In fact, I'd say that both he and Espedy, who I pointed out before the race, are looking like their strategy and race pace are quite good compared to their qualifying pace.
Driscoll looking to the inside here, coming into Canada hard on the binders. Smith doing a great job to outbrake him and maintain that 2nd position.
Wonder whether these 2 UDOX drivers will be trying to make this their 3rd team. Maybe throw off Eric Smith and Christian Challoner a little bit and maybe try and make the pass for the lead here. But as we've seen, whenever you do that 13, you are going to gain a lot of time. That's how Liam Quinn gained all of his time. So that's exactly what I'm expecting. So I would expect Christian Challoner to try and make all of these 14s until the final stint so that he can make sure to rebuff any challenge that comes his way.
Little peek there from Driscoll on Smith as we ride on board with the 32 looking back. Much better exit. Smith might have a shot here at the lead. Does he dare use a push to pass and maybe go for it? He's closing in on him. He's going to look to the inside. Challoner does not defend. And as he breaks into the corner, he's going to be able to get the nose ahead. Chandler lets him through, tries to hold off Steve Driscoll, who nearly gets into him. The lead now goes to Eric Smith. Challoner to 2nd.
Guess it's fuel-saving time for Christian.
True. Maybe he wanted that to happen a little bit there as soon as he saw him gaining. These top 4 still together. Liam Quinn in that exchange, by the way, has now jumped.
Oh, here we go.
He's behind.
Eric Smith got a little bit loose coming out of the corner and going out of the bridge. Christian Challoner able to make the pass right on back.
Well, that was short-lived. Didn't even get to the line to officially lead a lap, or will he? No, he backs out of it. He could have had to think about it. In fact, he's going to be under attack. Here comes Driscoll looking down to the inside into Canada corner. He's now going to take this one away from Eric Smith. His teammate coming through as well. Waring side by side. Up and over Bill Mitchell Bend.
Oh, no!
Any contact. Waring gets sent around.
Oh, big ghost contact between the 2 of them. There was still 2 feet between them.
Catches the car nicely.
He's coming into the pits. Smith into the pits. He thinks he has too much damage. The wing looks...
Is it that, or did he get a penalty from the pit exit?
It might have been that because he did put those left front tire over the yellow line, so he might have had a penalty. And if that's the case, that's just such a tough break for Andrew Waring as well, because that incident didn't even need to happen if that's the case.
will be telling, depending on what his pit stop looks like here. Let's watch and see until he gets into his stall if it's going to be a long one. If it's a long one, it's definitely a penalty.
Yeah,
He
that
should
front
have a spare car.
the front nose has stayed on. I don't see anything getting repaired. I believe that is a penalty.
Yeah,
It is.
Mm,
Ugh.
wow. Gutting Smith, who looked like he was in contention for the win. So what does this do with our leaders? It's now down to 2 when it was at 5 in the train at the start of this race. Challoner and Driscoll are the 2 left, and Driscoll definitely has impetus to try and overtake him, because remember, Driscoll is currently 3rd in the points. He's trying to overcome the deficit that he has to the European champion.
Yeah, he's going to try and get that move done. I mean, but at the same time, you do want to save fuel. But here he goes. He's going to try and make the move. Here we go down into Canada corner. Oh, he decides better of it and thinks to duck back in. But he's definitely looking for an opportunity here.
And then you have to wonder, if those 2 keep fighting, is Liam Quinn going to suddenly start being a factor for the potential win? The 24, less than 2 seconds behind currently.
Well, he did take his 13 lap stint as the first one, so he needs to save fuel a lot on this run. So expect him to really struggle to catch up to those guys who are able to battle and spend a little bit more fuel. If they can manage to get 14s out of it, the 2 guys up in front, that'll be pretty great for the both of them, and it'll put Liam Quinn in a heap of trouble.
Turn 3 once again for this pair, and Driscoll still within the slipstream. Looks like he's not going to be able to attack, though. Worth noting that Warling, remember, he lost a little bit early on in this race, and he's back up to 7th. He's caught up to Austin Espedy, looking for 6th. As we watch those 2 return 5, we now hop on board with the number 90.
We know how fast Travis is, but Austin is no slouch either. He's just had a couple of run-ins with some other drivers. He's got his spare car out now, so he does not have another car to play with, whereas Travis Warling just coming off from serving a penalty. So Travis is going to be eager to get by, but Austin is one to be known for very staunch defense, so expect him not to just move over for Travis.
And using that spare car really changes your mindset. I mean, I was lucky enough not to have to use it this week in the European region, but when you lose that, it's kind of a reality sets in. Okay, this is it. If I mess up again, even just a simple little mistake, or somebody around me messes up and I have no choice, that insurance is gone, and it changes the way you drive the car.
We'll see fewer risks from him. Speaking of penalties, Eric Smith, after his, he returns in 23rd. That is how much this hurts, to have errors like that.
Yeah, 30-second penalty is what he served, and it was a rough one for him for sure. He's out there back making laps, and he will try and make his way back up the board, but with the limited fuel that we have to run around here, there's not much that he can do other than just hit his fuel number and try and make passes when it's most opportune. But here's Christian Challoner still ahead of Steve Driscoll, and Steve doesn't look like he's up to putting on a challenge quite yet anymore.
Knows a little bit, but he keeps back in the draft. I wonder if Quinn is really fuel saving, because if he is, this is incredible pace. It's down to 1 second between himself and the top 2. Here, as we ride on board with Quinn, you can see how close they are ahead.
It's been seeming like that kinetic car, that really nice paint scheme, it keeps on getting bigger and bigger in the picture when we watch Challoner and Driscoll go at it. So we'll see. Maybe he's hoping on, if he catches these guys, he can then start saving, but boy, it'll be close. It's not a huge save after you take away that pace lap from the first stint. Making 14 isn't terribly hard, but you still have to do some. So maybe he's going to try and save it for the end here, as we got about 8 laps left on this stint.
And Dawson was friendly enough to remind me that Liam actually did do a 14 that first stint, so his pace is even more impressive coming off of that, because that means that he was doing the same strategy that the leaders were and was able to gain time on them that entire first stint.
Up the hill. Some of the drivers who have gone up massive leaps and bounds as drivers like Wade Hayes from 21st to 10th currently in the number 33. And he was actually in 9th for a while. He just recently got overtaken by Michael Morley. So there you see he's on screen.
And Bradley Haley is around coming off of Canada Corner. Just now recovering.
This was a solo incident.
Oh, just clipped the inside curb a little bit, got those rear tires to spin up, and just couldn't save it. He hit his nose cone into the tire barrier, but hopefully it was flush, and usually that doesn't end up with too much aerodynamic damage at that point.
You know, we talked about how in practice the track was so hot, 119 degrees we saw at one point, and then at the start of the race it went down to 100. The track temp is back up to 107, and that's a combination of just the air temp, but I think more importantly, these cars running around this track, throwing heat into the track as these high downforce cars do. And I think as this race goes on, it'll be interesting to see, does that track keep getting hotter? Maybe guys have set up their car a little bit better and want the weather to be different. It'll be interesting to see.
Now Liam Quinn has come to within half a second, so he is going to be feeling that slipstream. I'd say it's safe to say that he has arrived. The 24 is on the back of Driscoll and Challoner, and I think he's actually kind of bringing Waring along with him. After Waring's spin and slight contact, he's 1.7 seconds behind Quinn.
Yeah, Waring is doing a good job of making that recovery. He's going to be the most hard-pressed to worry about all that fuel, but Liam Quinn is definitely here. He is tucked in. He is number 3 in that pack, and now he can save all that fuel that he was using to catch up to these guys and get it back probably in the matter of 2 or 3 laps.
Just saw on the top right of your screen, Austin Espedy sending the fastest lap of the race, so interesting to see that. He is about 7 seconds back from the leaders, sitting in 6th currently.
And he's looking pretty good on his push to pass as well. He's got 9 left. He's only used 1. Considering he's come up from 16th position, he's sitting quite well out there. So right on board with him.
I think that says a lot about these kinetic cars. We saw the pace of Liam Quinn and him too, especially in practice. We saw SPD at the top of the board. These cars didn't qualify maybe as great, but in the race, boy, they've had great pace today.
Our leaders, honestly, the one doing the worst in terms of push to pass is Clark Archer. He's already used 4 of them out of the 10 he's allotted. So he's almost halfway through, and we're not halfway through the race. Although granted, we're getting kind of close to it. So if he stays a little conservative in this next little stint, he could be okay.
Yeah, those push passes will become extremely vital whenever you take that 13-lap stint, because that's when you can afford to use up the extra fuel and not have to save a couple laps afterward in order to do that. So as soon as those guys hit that 13-lap stint, which a lot of these drivers are saving towards, well, at least the guys in the front are saving towards at least this stint or the ones following, whenever they do that, they can really start to hit those push-to-passes and use them effectively. But expect Christian Challoner to be the one using them for defense towards the latter half of this race.
Yeah, especially considering Challoner has used none of them. He still has all 10. There's very few drivers that are in that position. I see Johnny Nichols, Bradley Haley, David Warner, but these are all drivers that are way down the order, past the top 10, compared to our leader, who is apparently not only quick, but good at fuel saving, and very much a penny pincher in terms of that push to pass.
You can see Waring's car getting bigger. He's about 1.3 seconds behind Quinn, 2 off of our leader. And I mean, this seems like a stupid thing, but for some, I feel like I'm questioning how much pace does Challoner actually have? How much of this is saving? How much of this is maybe the draft? Or what are the odds our leader maybe doesn't have the best car? We've seen him under attack when Smith was here, and Driscoll's kind of peeked out every now and then, but it looks like he's backed off. Does Challoner have the best car? I mean, and again, it's Christian Challoner. I mean, points leader, dude's won tons of races, but who knows? Does he have the best car here today?
Right now, that car's looking pretty good. It's been interesting to see the weather throughout this race. I've been kind of watching the temperatures And for some reason, Dawson, they haven't been going down, but you can see the cloud cover has kept the track pretty well covered off, at least for the majority of the race. I haven't seen the sun peeking out too often, so I'm a little bit confused by that.
Yeah. As living in Wisconsin, I know the weather here is weird, so I can't explain it. I don't know if that probably correlates into the sin. Maybe, there you go, a little bit more sunlight as we see in our picture, but yeah, I don't know. That's a good point.
Grew up in the Midwest as well, so yeah, sometimes it can be kind of odd. Still, these top 2 became top 3. Now it is top 4. Waring is to the back of them, so he could potentially save fuel a little bit in the slipstream. They finally get a little bit of a break. They could be caught by Clark Archer, but it's 4.5 seconds. It's going to be a while. No, they won't, because Clark Archer has a big slide just behind them. He's going to lose his spot. Austin Espedy is looking for a top 5 as they go into turn 6. He's down to the inside, and he's going to be able to slip through. Warling is not able to follow suit. He'll sit behind Clark Archer. Let's look at the replay. This kicks off down into the braking at turn 5.
Yeah, that was the moment that Austin was waiting for, the mistake from Clark Archer up ahead of him, so he was able to get that done. Here we go, Clark Archer. Oh, he just gets onto the rumble strips and can't get that right rear tire. It just locks up on him and it ends up sending him around. It's actually kind of a miracle. He kept it straight, and Austin just pounces in that moment and is able to get by.
That was a catch, frankly. That could have gone so much worse, but he caught the slide and just kept the car going without missing a beat. Down to 6. Austin Espedy now has about 6 seconds to make up if he wants to catch those top 4. And considering the tear that he has been on, he yet could do it. In fact, why don't we pull up a lap comparison between Espedy and our leader, Challoner? Let's see how he compares, because he did take the fastest lap earlier. So that kind of makes me wonder, is Waring this time is the one who will take the fastest lap?
Yeah, and Waring actually is now right up to the back of the top 3, so we've got a 4-car train for that lead pack once again as we take a look at Austin Espedy still ahead of Clark Archer. Here's the lap comparison, and as you can see, Austin has been gaining most laps. He did lose some time trying to make that pass on Clark Archer, but he's been gaining around half a second every single lap, and we've had a pass for second place. Liam Quinn just made it past Steve Driscoll for second.
Quinn with another one. Does he set his sights on Challoner? Does he try to pass him? Or does he hold back and let Challoner pull him along? In the background, the car that you see is actually a lapped car. That is Intilli, who just recently took a pit stop and has returned. We actually still have 30 cars on the lead lap. Only Intilli and Bammer are a lap down right now.
And Bammer's about to go one more lap down. He's just about 3 seconds up the road from Christian Challoner. So they're going to start to deal with lap traffic here, and that could help define this race.
We're looking at about 4 laps left on this stint, possibly 3. And who would be those guys who might end up pitting a lap early? Does Liam Quinn, has he saved enough? He's been on an absolute tear this stint, but is he going to be able to push it to that 14? But I think he's not the biggest person we should watch here to see who can go on those laps. I think Austin Espedy is the guy that we definitely need to watch, because as you saw, he's been faster than our leader for the majority of this stint. Has he saved enough? Bigger reason why it's important for him, he went 13 last time. If he goes 13 again, he could be in serious trouble.
The other thing is Andrew Waring also had that spin, and he was able to claw his way back up to the leaders, so he's going to be tight on fuel as well. So a lot of these drivers that are going to try and do this 14, they're going to be tight on fuel. Andrew Waring he could pull a 13 this stint, but he's going to have to save on his final stint and not be quite as competitive as the guys up ahead of him who definitely are saving. Liam Quinn, though, looking pretty racy here. I think he's going to make a move here on Christian Challoner for the lead.
He sends it in extremely deep, but Challoner looks like maybe he let him have it. Braked a little bit early, so another new leader as Liam Quinn up to the front. Worth noting as well for the team's championship, Quinn and Challoner, Kinetic, whereas Driscoll and Waring, both UDOTs. So it's going to be quite a bit of a game if they can stay as a 1-2 there for the Kinetic team.
Yeah, I think that Christian, he's been out front for quite a while, so being able to tuck in behind Liam Quinn will really help him with his fuel saving on the final little bit of this run. They're going to be coming up to 11 laps on this stint next time by, so they're going to be closing in towards the end of this fuel run, and these guys, it's going to be fascinating to see what the strategies are, because remember, none of them took tires last time. When, Dawson, do you take tires in this race?
Oh, I believe everybody took tires. I think.
I would think, yeah, 'cause since you're pretty much filling all the way up, there's not much of a penalty for taking tires, is there?
No, yeah, the tires, unlike the Le Mans race last week, last time, we saw that the cars, they fill up and take tires at different times. In IndyCar, they're able to do it all at once. So unless you're filling up, I think it's like 14 gallons, you're not waiting on the tires.
We should see everybody just slap on fresh ones since they don't have a limit. I suspect they'll probably start to implement those next year with the new season for the majors, that being now a feature that you can use on iRacing, limit the number of tires that drivers are allowed to have. These top four still staying right in line with one another. For those wondering about Espedy, doesn't seem like he is gaining all that much. He's still at 6.2 seconds. In fact, we're not really seeing much of him in the background of the shot, so you see the leaders ahead of him there, at least for a brief moment. He's being chased by Archer, Warling, and that's it, actually. I think that is a lapped car between them. Yes, that is Intilli back there.
Yeah, so it seems like everyone's just kind of waiting for the end of their stints here. Just waiting to see what the strategy play does as far as giving people the advantage. So it's going to be fascinating to see how they work on that. Eric Smith, if you remember correctly, when he came back out of the pits, he was down below 20th position. He's recovered to 18th now and is tucked in behind Justin Morton. Justin Morton's another driver who's been doing extremely well. He actually started off second to last. He started off 32nd position, and he's now up to 17th spot in that TDR machine. So Justin doing a good job from one of the back positions. And it looks like Austin Espedy has come into the pits. Could he only do 12 laps, Dawson?
I think so.
Oh, that's not good.
Wow. Okay, then. So he is down to his stall here in just a moment.
I believe this is 13, which makes a little bit more sense, but still not enough. This puts him into a bad spot now. He has to run a 15-lap stint, essentially, or take that splash and dash.
Back out and rolling now. So that splits things up. Clark Archer a little bit farther back from Waring, but he has Warling with him just behind in 5th and 6th place. Looks like we got more drivers that are only making it to this lap. Nichols is among them, Sexton, Brian Barnes I see down the lane.
Yeah, so quite a few drivers struggling on this second stint as the field was more spread out this time by. Weren't able to hit that fuel number, so they're struggling a little bit right now. This could really come into play later on with their stints.
Yes, but one driver who was able to make it, who we were questioning, Liam Quinn, still the leader of your race, and we're expecting him to lead everyone into the pits this time.
Now, I'm seeing them on lap 12, though, for this stint, so I don't think he should be coming in this time, unless he's doing a 13-lapper here. Yeah, he's going to stay out.
Yeah, so I think all those other drivers were short by 2, Dawson. Dawson, Lando Callisto's out of fuel, going through the kink.
Oh, wow.
He's not going to make it back. I mean,
Oh, my goodness.
he's puttering. He's still got something left in it, but he's in a really treacherous position.
He's on lap 13.
Wow.
Yeah, okay, and there it goes. The number 2 is going to have to take a tow, and it will be costly.
Ugh.
Meanwhile, Clark Archer is in. Clark Archer now takes his fuel. Where is he going to come out in regards to Espedy? Espedy's going to beat him out. That was that blue car you just saw streak by.
Wade Hayes and Lyndon Swabier are both in as well, so Those two are ones that could do 13 laps on their on that stint, so they're able to get through it. Clark Archer is actually going to be better off on fuel than Espedy, so expect him to catch up to Espedy by the time the race is over for sure. So we see Swaby and Hazen.
I'm still shocked. I mean, 12 laps. I thought it was pretty easy to go 13 from my experience. Fuel has turned out to be a lot more important than what I was expecting.
Well, we'll have to keep watching and see if anybody does take that extra pit stop. Meanwhile, these are our leaders, and they are coming in. 1, 2, 3, and 4, all down. Hopefully it's a little bit less dramatic. Oh, almost Driscoll getting into the back of Challoner, pushing that pit entry, making sure he squeaks everything out of it.
How much do these guys put in the cars? Do they put in enough for 13? Try and maybe get in front of somebody else, or do they just fill it up so they can go head down hard to the finish?
That's
what would you do?
I think I would too. I don't like fuel saving, and I don't like having that in the back of my mind. I'd want to go all out.
Especially not in the last stint. So they all pull into their slots. Christian was the last one into his box, so let's see who leaves the pit lane first.
Bradley Haley comes out, and that's Quinn. Quinn is out by a mile ahead of them. Waring beats Challoner out. And then Callisto came out at the same time as Driscoll, unfortunately causing him a bit of a headache coming back. And this is the farthest apart we've seen them for a while.
I'd expect that to close significantly, but Challoner is close to the back of Waring, so expect him to just hang on to that back bumper, or that rear wing rather, since they don't have bumpers in the Indy cars, and just to do his fuel saving right now as Waring pulls them up to Liam Quinn.
Wow. Quinn not only better on pace than them, but better on fuel apparently. Is just insane. We asked if Christian Challoner would have anybody that could match him, and I'd say Quinn today is the man to do so. Let's take a look at the difference between the two stops between Quinn and Challoner. See if we can find anything dramatic. Getting that one pulled up here, and Driscoll really came out the worst of that group. He's already 1.3 seconds back from Challoner. There's the comparison. It's only 0.2 faster overall.
And that's between Driscoll as well, so yeah, I mean, both of them, it wasn't that much of a difference, but just Liam Quinn being the first in means he was the first out, and Christian looked like he just struggled getting out of the box.
So I know from my time, at least, especially in the Indy 500, this was a big deal. Where you land in the box kind of makes a difference. They have the animated pit crews, and if you're too far forward or too far back, you could lose a couple tenths because you kind of see the guys move forward and you have to spend time on it. So if anybody was good at hitting their spot and being dead on, I would assume it would be Liam Quinn with as much time as he has had in his car. So I think maybe that's where he got his advantage.
So as we watch our drivers continue on, lap traffic now having a bit of an effect as they come onto more cars that don't have the pace. That's Wayne Hutchison that many are having to try and pick their way by.
Yeah, and Waring already under a second up to Liam Quinn. The next is Bradley Haley, who's tucked in between them right now. So Christian Challoner doing exactly what he needs to do, just chilling in behind these guys. But wow, look at that. Liam Quinn having to weave in and out. Oh my goodness, almost contact there between Waring and Bradley Haley, who's way slow on the outside. Whew.
Man, a bit of a heart attack there for the 24. This race is not over. Tragedy can still befall you, even without any of your own doing. Kevin Hill, I think, going to try and let the leader by. Not quite, a little bit awkwardly. Now he's able to let him through. Waring going to be compromised as well.
You can get a lot of places on this track, like the carousel, the kinks, places where it can get really awkward with traffic. And I wonder, maybe push to pass is going to come into play here. You can push to pass and get around a lap car so you don't have to sit behind them through the kink into the final two turns. those guys who saved them will definitely have that opportunity. As Christian Challenger, you can see in the background, just lunges past the lap car of Kevin Hill.
And you have to remember, we talked about this last time we had a majors race. There is no blue flag rule. There's just an advisory in the major series. We're going to take a look at P6. This is Clark Archer on Travis Worling. Clark's been making up some time here, and Travis still about 3.5 seconds behind Austin Espedy.
I'm trying to remember, was Worling behind Archer before the stops? He jumped him in that sequence. I'll have to look into that. But regardless, Espedy is back in front of them. He's in 5th, but he stopped very early compared to everybody around him. He might have to save a little bit of fuel. Oh, Smith is off again after his climb back forward. I think he was all the way up to 12th, and he's going to lose more. Eric Smith, who at one time briefly led this race, spun himself out on the final corner, and this was all of his own doing.
Yeah, and this is just heartbreaking for him as he comes around the corner. And yeah, wow, that's just a brake bias issue there, it looks like.
Oh, and Quinn's lost the lead.
Yep. Pass for the lead into Canada. Andrew Waring getting past him. Got a great run out of the carousel. Really set that up.
It's surprising there. Unless Quinn is still going to try and save a little bit of fuel. He's coming back at him. Let's see how aggressive he is. Nope, he wants it back. So must have just been a mistake as he gets to the inside, and Waring doesn't fight it all that hard.
Oh, I mean, these two guys sure look like they're duking it out just a little bit right now. Christian Challenger looks like he's just kind of taking his time. But these guys might be on their 13s with the way they're fighting with one another right now. This could be interesting.
Oh, I think Espedy had a wreck.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, you know what? He ran into a driver who was coming back on the track. I'm trying to figure out who it was. Oh, it was Kevin Hill. A lapped car had spun in front of him into the final turn. Austin had nowhere to go.
Fortunately for Austin, that was only a front wing change, so it was only a couple seconds. We're going to take a look at Kevin Hill right now as he goes into the final corner. He's trying to stay out of the way of some of the lead lap cars and ends up spinning it, and he slams on the brakes but just can't stop it fast enough. Austin ends up ramming his front wing into Kevin Hill.
So Espedy with a 8-second stop is back out. And, well, that sort of gets him back on sequence, but it's still costly. He's down to 8th. Waring's still very close behind on Quinn as we watch them head through the kettle bottoms. And that's Challenger also right underneath the gearbox.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Waring handles this. Quinn is in the lead once again, so I mean, these guys swapping positions is exactly what Christian Challenger wants, because while they burn up fuel, he's saving fuel. So that means his last stop can be shorter than these guys, but he looks like he's going for a run here, and he backs out of it. That's exactly what he needs to be doing right now, just saving that fuel, making those final stops a little bit shorter.
Eyebrows get raised here as Christian Challenger elects not to try and make the overtake. Ooh, but here we go again. Another good run from Waring. Quinn goes defensive, coming down the Moraine sweep. He doesn't have the momentum. It looks like Waring's going to have the nose ahead, but he's not going to have the desired line until the braking. As a big lift for Liam Quinn lets him through. The 3.36 is your new leader once again.
I don't know, Dawson. If I'm Liam Quinn, am I thinking, yeah, you know what? I'll just let him go, because if he wants it that badly, he can go up there and burn fuel.
I think I would be in that mindset. I think you're dead on with that. Personally, I don't feel the need to race. I know racing just brings other people closer to you. If you can save fuel a lot easier and just ride it out, that's great. But I mean, I don't like getting to that point where you're maybe out of the draft and getting kind of close to that. But you still just, I think, not so much Quinn, Challenger. I think Challenger is definitely in that. You saw him on the front stretch kind of let off and not want to race. I think he's really comfortable with his pace and where he's at. It's cool to just kind of ride for this step.
Now, Smith is back in the game. He's in 14th. We got Halleck behind him. He's also trying to get ahead of Brian Barnes. Brian coming up from 31st to 13th. Ahead of Morton, we mentioned this earlier, 32nd to 12th. So these two drivers have clearly been the biggest gainers.
Yeah, definitely. Eric Smith, he's on a charge. I think that he's kind of left field behind, and he's just trying to gain positions at this point. And there's Justin Morton, just a really consistent drive from him, staying out of trouble so far. You know, knock on wood as a driver that you continue to stay out of trouble, but his consistency is leading to a great race for him so far, and he's only about 10 seconds out of the top 10.
Really, something better could happen for him. Oh, and I think Smith is going to have a run. You see in the background, he's side by side. Barnes is not going to fight him. Barnes also letting him through. So Eric Smith with that move is back up to 12th, but he started in second place if you're just tuning in. Unfortunately, some coming together and some mistakes is what put him down in this position. And there was a car ducking in. That was Halleck. And 10 laps.
Wow. Yeah, that's not very long at all. So he's going to have, maybe he's trying to back it up from the back of the race. It's because he got off sequence earlier. But wow, I mean, we've got about 11 to go now, so it's going to be challenging. Well, no, sorry, 21 to go. So yeah, he's still off sequence.
So as all this is happening, Warren ahead of Quinn has now allowed Christian Challoner to once again close up on the number 24. There you can see, but he's not riding in the slipstream.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
That's not a good sign.
Overheating, you think?
Well, I only saw one other driver do this today, and it was the guy who was riding behind me for most of the race. He ended up blowing it up. And he was kind of ducking out in every other corner, so I wonder.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is, I mean, just look at it. He's having to run way far back out of the draft. I think Christian's heating up.
And that's kind of funny because at least with the person who I saw at that example of, he was riding behind for the majority of the race. We've seen Challoner up in front for the first two sets, so
I mean, educated guess here. I wonder if he set his car up to be in front of people then, and that's why he's having problems with overheating. Sort of the Red Bull approach, if you will.
Right. Oh man, I don't know.
Yeah, I've had too many bad experiences with that in my past history, and maybe that's just because I'm not very good at retaining a lead, but Christian is definitely looking like he's struggling a little bit. He does not want to tuck up to Liam Quinn right now.
Let's head a little bit farther back in the field where we've got a battle for 16th. McGreevy being chased by Bennett and Dick Mueller. These are all three drivers that unfortunately have had a little more action than I think they would have wanted, at least not in the fashion they would have wanted. A bad exit out of turn one from McGreevy allows Bennett to close in. Can he get the shot off of turn three, though? The car is looking good. That is Bennett in the white machine. The teal car is Brian McGreevy, and he's going to get the look to the inside. Bennett has the track position. I think that's a little bit of a lift. McGreevy lets him through.
Might as well save a little bit of fuel. Yep, and that's why, because it's possible that McGreevy can make a mistake and overshoot it on the inside. It's so easy to do into hurry downs. It's not even funny. It's something I do almost every time I try and make an inside pass there.
Well, Bennett had it with ease, and then he gave it away with ease, and he's going to have to do it all over again. And Dick Mueller not able to take advantage of that behind him. Would have thought that maybe he'd try and get ahead of the number 71 with that incident, but was not to be. Keeping half an eye on this and half an eye on our leaders to see if Challoner is having to duck out of the slipstream anymore.
Looks like he's gotten his temperatures a little bit under control. He's back under the rear wing of Quinn, but we're just coming up to a straight now, so it'll be interesting to see. We're coming up to a straight for both parties, so this party's probably going to be the one where the action happens the most. Let's see whether or not we can get another swing back.
We're still watching. This is McGreevy, Bennett, and Mueller on screen. Up the front stretch. I think this is going to be another shot for Bennett. He's down to the inside once again. Can he keep from outbreaking himself into turn one? He's a little early on them, but McGreevy outside offline not only loses that spot, but Dick Mueller takes 17th away. So 2 positions down in one corner. The chase back up through the field for Eric Smith has netted 12th place now. Looks like he got by Justin Morton.
And you just saw it flash onto your screen. Steve Driscoll with the fastest lap, and that's because he has caught up to our leaders. He is just 1 second behind them now. And Christian Challoner still trying to deal with a little bit overheating. He's been ducking out, not as consistently, but he is still dealing with that problem up at the lead.
Starting to come down to it as the drivers work their way around here for round 8 of the majors. If you're just joining us, Andrew Warren is your leader from 4th on the grid, with Liam Quinn coming up from 12th to 2nd place, although Quinn led for a few laps. Driver who led for much of the early half was Christian Challoner, but he's sitting in 3rd. We've been speculating on if he has some issues with the car overheating, being in the dirty air, and now they are finally caught by Steve Driscoll in P4, making it the train that has been for much of our coverage. Travis Warling, who was with them early on in this race, has not been able to gun them down. He's about 6 seconds behind currently.
And Dawson, I was party to a conversation with the driver who overheated behind you, and one of the things that they were talking about amongst them and the team was about downshifting and how doing that too early can actually end up heating up the car a little bit too much, and so that was one of the reasons why he ended up blowing up.
Okay, that's interesting, because I definitely know what you're talking about, and downshifting quick kind of allows the car to use the transmission to slow down a little bit. It helps you brake. I definitely did it, and I never had those problems, luckily, but that makes sense. Hopefully Challoner can kind of adjust it and get back to what he was doing on that good pace. And we still have one more stop to make, one more chance to kind of flip through these guys. We'll see where he ends up. Look for
Quinn and Warren swapping around. Quinn is back in front of him.
Looked like he gave it to him too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he literally slowed up and pulled over.
Maybe Warring's trying to hit a fuel number and he wasn't doing it out front.
That would be my guess. It certainly seems like the only driver really good saving fuel up at the front, or drivers I should say, Quinn did it quite well. And then Challoner we saw do it very, very well as well. The others seem to need to hold behind.
Yeah, and what's the similarity between Quinn and Challoner?
Kinetic drivers.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Good catch on that one. Didn't even think about that, even though I had mentioned it earlier. As they come back around to complete yet another lap. They're going to be starting lap 10 of this stint. For fans of Eric Smith and wondering what he's doing on his climb back forward, he's up to 11th. He's gotten past Swaby. He's about 3.5 seconds back from the top 10 now. Not sure if we're going to see him manage to get into the top 5, because from here on out, it's probably going to be a little bit harder to make huge inroads on the cars ahead.
That being said, he is 1 lap ahead of our leaders as far as pit strategy is concerned, and so is Michael Morley in 7th, so he'll have a little bit more fuel for that final stint in order to push with, so we could see him close this gap and possibly break into the top 10.
He sends it down into Canada corner. We are down to 22 cars left on the lead lap. Remember earlier we mentioned that we still had the vast majority of the field on the lead lap. Well, the lap traffic has gotten a little bit worse over time. Next one for Quinn to try and lap is going to be Trevor Clement. in number 111.
Yeah, these leaders are definitely, yeah, you can see Christian still ducking out from behind, so he's still trying to manage that temperature. And these leaders are definitely running their fuel numbers. And so, yeah, it's going to be, questionable on as far as who's going to be able to get out in the lead. But if Christian has been doing his due diligence fuel saving, I would expect him to be able to take a shorter final stop. So if he's able to do that and get out in the lead, all of these overheating woes will go away.
And I think we had our first scheduled stop because Brian Barnes is in and out. He's going to have to stop one more time, probably, because, yeah, lap 40 out of 55. Although he has gone a lap down. So it may be that he's counting on not having to do that extra lap.
Yeah, but a 15 is still really hard. So it'll be a stretch for him to do it regardless of whether it's 15 or 16. So, unfortunately, seems to be in a really compromised position. He's going to have to run. He's going to have to be very diligent on his pace in order to maintain any sort of track position right now.
What sort of stages we've gone through here at Road America? The race starting somewhat calm, and suddenly it just erupted. And then things once again have calmed down as everybody is looking at those fuel numbers. Espedy doesn't seem to be watching them that carefully because he set another fastest lap of the race, a 43.6 flat for the number 77, with about 4 seconds to go up to Morley.
And he was in the draft, Dawson. What does that mean for his fuel numbers?
Yeah, it could be saving, or I think he's just punching through him at this point, a little bit off sequence. Our director just let me know he's only got 4 push-to-passes left, so that could kind of play into it. But just to give you an idea, his qualifying time with a hotter track, that's a kind of an important factor, was also a 43.6. So that's a pretty good lap time, even though it is a cooler track by about 15 degrees or so.
Espedy's down to 3 now. He's burning through them. And he's got the fewest. He's down to 2 push-to-passes now. What is going on? Why is Espedy using them like this?
Well, if he thinks he's going to try and make it to the end with his next stop, then he's going to need to fuel save the entire time, so you might as well get rid of him this stint.
That's true. So we are back to our top 4. All line astern is a little bit wide there from Liam Quinn, and Waring doesn't snatch it up. Christian Challoner, Steve Driscoll watching from behind. That's Nichols behind them. That's a lap down car. That's not 4th position.
These guys have tightened up significantly since we last looked at them, so they're a lot more snug to one another here. And so this means that they're all either planning on doing something with the extra fuel that they have before their stop, or they are just tightening up so that when the fuel stop happens, because I think they are going to have the opportunity to duck in this next time, so that would be able to get them to the end on a 14. So let's see whether or not anyone takes the bait here.
There is lap traffic just ahead of them here, a decent amount of cars, but with the pit stops, that might shuffle things around.
Did have one more pit stop. Bradley Sexton has been in and out. Looks like Dick Mueller also doing the same. And there's Challoner poking his nose out again.
Yeah, Dawson, you saw it too. Steve Driscoll thought about coming to pit lane there and decided not to do it. So let's see whether he makes it all the way back around. I would assume that was just a fake to try and see whether or not he could get Christian to go. But yeah, this will be interesting because Driscoll's actually falling off the back of them a little bit here.
One of our front runners, Clark Archer, in pit lane. So I think he's going to be taking what he hopes to be his final stop a little bit earlier than those around him. He hits his stall.
So Dawson, how much can you push if you are able to get that get it to be a 13 lap final stint? Are you able to really go for it, or do you still have to feel safe?
It's well, I mean, this was why I made the comment when we talked about guys running 12s. I thought that was kind of odd because I had been pushing in practice and in other races, and I was never to the point where making 13 was a stretch. 13 was pretty easy for me. So, you know, I don't know. It could be a bunch of things. I mean, setup, maybe you're running a higher wing. That higher wing is going to give you more drag and a little less fuel mileage. So that could easily be a case. So it might be a driver-to-driver thing, and plus just kind of how you downshift and all kinds of other things to factors. But for me, at least, it was pretty easy. So we're going to see leaders coming into the pits this time. Liam Quinn getting really close to a lap car.
Oh, contact! That was between Challoner and Waring.
Did they actually touch? It looked close on my screen, but I couldn't tell. Let's take a look at the replay as they trundle down the lane. This is Challoner. Yeah, we're watching here. See if he actually makes contact with the back. Hard to tell from that angle.
It was close.
Might want an onboard. Let's back that up and watch it one more time here.
Ooh.
I think he didn't touch him.
I don't think he did. That's really impressive.
Here we go. Exits are happening now.
Whoa, they're going to be 4 wide out of there. That's not going to work. Somehow, 4 cars came out of there and nobody wrecked. Wade Hayes came out first. Waring fighting with Liam Quinn. They're battling for the lead now. Quinn has the inside. He's using the lap car as a pick as he fights with Waring, and he gets the lead away.
Wow. Didn't take very long, did it, for them to start fighting into this final stint?
Quinn's tires were very close to that yellow. I think they were on him a little bit. Let's hope he doesn't have a penalty. Boy, driving hard now. Challoner right up to the back of Waring's car.
The game is on. I'm with you. That'd be an absolute disappointing end to this fight if 1 or 2 of them had penalties for that pit exit. That was just wild stuff. Liam Quinn now ahead of Andrew Waring, Christian Challoner third, and Driscoll. Driscoll's caught up with them now. He's in the game.
He's definitely back up to them. He did fall off a little bit in that final lap, was saving enough fuel, but he's definitely caught up to them. But if Challoner is running hot, expect him to try and make some passes very quickly to try and get more of that clean air. He can work with his teammate up in the lead to try and get some clean air, so expect him to try and get past Waring as fast as possible.
So a little bit of a look from Waring on Quinn down into Canada corner, but can't do anything with it. In the 24 car, I have to imagine that Quinn has that heart rate going. He knows that this is it. This is the stint that will make the difference. What about Challoner looking for another in his streak of wins as he comes up to the back of them using the slipstream? Once again, not quite close enough. Is this where we finally see all 4 of them truly unleash their full pace?
Definitely. I think all gloves are off now. It is go time for every single one of these drivers. Fuel window, that should be out the window. These guys are good to the end. You can see Austin Espedy kind of in the background there, 3.2 off, but we believe he has 1 more fuel stop he has to make, so he's not exactly a player in this picture. But watch for this group of cars to try and take risks, passing lap cars, all kinds of stuff. I mean, that pit exit is just cracking open what we're going to see here till the end.
Yeah, I would expect to see these 4 drivers really to start taking, like you said, some big risks here, and I'm not sure who's going to be the biggest risk taker. Now, one thing to think about is the point situation. Christian Challoner is very comfortably in the lead of the points, but if he ends up spinning here, he will lose a ton of points in the championship. So expect him not to take too many big risks. But that being said, when you have someone who's that far ahead in the points and they take a big risk, it can come as so much of a surprise that you can really catch people out. But wow, they're going to get close here in Canada corner.
Even still, Waring elects not to do anything with it, although Challoner certainly was shocked a little bit by how quickly he approached the gearbox of Andrew Waring. They accordion together and then stretch back apart. Onto the front stretch they go. All this is going to happen with lap traffic in the way as well. You could see 2 cars that flashed by. That's Clement and Kuhn that they're going to have to try and sneak through.
Yeah, these are not slow drivers either. They're just drivers who have struggled a little bit. Nick Kuhn and Trevor Clement. Schmeier's had his own problems that he's dealing with up ahead. He's a little bit off pace, but Kuhn and Clement are battling amongst one another for that 19th position, and these leaders coming up behind them, this could get really interesting.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that was one of the things I found really difficult in the race today, was passing lap cars that just, they weren't that off pace. They were just kind of had bad days or were involved in stuff, and it got really hard because they were fast enough to kind of stay in front of you and just hold you up just enough, but not enough to where you could pass them. So we'll see how these guys do if they maybe just get out of the way.
They would have caught him at a really bad time, though. This is one of the more technical portions of the lap. And it looks like Quinn is going to be able to get by Kuhn. He's going to pull out of the way, let 1, 2, 3, and eventually 4 by. Didn't work out all that well for Driscoll and Challoner.
And Waring is looking really good coming out of the carousel. He's going to have to get a decent run here through the kink. It's hard to do when you're tucked in behind a car. He's able to get a decent one. Let's see whether or not he's got enough draft, but Quinn's got the draft of Clement up ahead. It might not be enough for Waring to make a move. Waring's going to have to stay behind this time. Challoner once again tucking up right in behind them. And we got some dirt on the track there. It's going to make it a little bit more challenging to get the car turned in there. But Waring really tight on the back of Quinn as they go through the final sector.
He can get the exit. He tucks right up underneath him, and he gets it. I don't know how he managed to get that car on the throttle as soon as he did, but he's going to get the slipstream. Clement is giving one to Quinn as well. They've got another lapped car, almost 3 wide here. They're able to get through. Clement holds off to the left. He brakes early, tried to let them all through. Driscoll starting to lose touch as it looks like it might be a 3-car fight here instead.
That was scary moments there for all of the leaders, for everybody involved in that. But Waring has such a good run right now on Quinn's still just sitting in the middle of the track trying to figure out where Waring's going to go, whether Waring's going to attack. He moves over to the left, moves over to the right. Waring looking for the opportunity, decides better of it.
We're down to 10 to go. If they've got something in it, they've got to throw it out there now. Liam Quinn still up at the front, coming from all the way back in 12th place on the grid as he fights with Waring. Christian Challoner, he is a sneaky guy. I have a feeling that if those two start fighting, you're going to see him get in the mix.
Yeah, these guys are going to be close. They're going to be very close for sure. I can report to you that Justin Morton had a self-spin last lap. He was able to recover. He was up to 11th, now down to 13th position as they're still going hard and fast down through the kink.
Now, is Travis Orling potentially going to suddenly become part of this? Because he's only 2.1 seconds back, it looks like. He's having to deal with some of the traffic, though. So maybe he'll start to fall back once again, and he was helped by them having to sneak through all those slower cars. There he is on screen in the number 90. Woo! Ooh, Challoner's got a run. Challoner's got a good run on Waring, and he's going to look to the inside, down the front stretch, up to the first turn, but he starts to stall out, and Challoner backs out of it.
Wondering to see whether he took a push to pass on that one. I think Waring did in order to get that pole, so Challoner did not use his push to pass on that straight, so he's definitely saving his for the last little bit of this race. You may think, well, there you go, that's the last little bit, right? You know how many you can use in one lap? You could go ham if you need to.
Ask Austin Espedy, I suppose, see how it worked for him. Espedy down to just a single push to pass left. He's in 7th, but Challoner, all 10 still on the board. Nichols still with 10. Barnes has 10 left. So does David Warner. But only 2 drivers in the top 10 still have their full slate of push to pass. That's Challoner and Nichols.
Oh man, Liam Quinn got a bad exit coming out of there under the bridge, so Waring right on his rear bumper. If he gets a good run through the kink, this could be a passing opportunity, but Waring has to back out of it a little bit, gets a little bit tight. So as they go through the kink, they're going to have Jeff Schmeier up ahead of them. This could end up giving the pole to Liam Quinn that he needs to stay ahead of Waring. Waring not a good enough run, he's going to have to stay behind.
Quinn faring pretty well as well. He's got 7 push to passes left. He's they approach Schmeier and Mueller. They can catch him on the front stretch. That'll be a good spot. Now, are those two battling for position? Yes, they are. So they're probably not going to want to give it up too much here.
Yeah, this is going to be lap traffic, and Christian Challoner having to back off a little bit from the back of Andrew Waring. Still, I think, dealing with some of that heating issue as Liam Quinn is able to get past Schmeier. He's not going to be able to get past Mueller before the next corner, and Schmeier's actually going to separate Waring and Quinn. So this might give an opportunity to Challoner coming out of turn 2. If Waring's going to try and make the move here, he's able to do so. Challoner will follow him through.
Yeah, a little bit of a hold up there for Quinn from Mueller down into turn 3. He'll get it paid back a little bit in the form of the slipstream. That keeps him away from the prying eyes of Andrew Waring, who is still looking to try and take this lead away. Shallow entry for Christian Challoner down into turn 5, who certainly got the worst of that traffic there in that section.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who's able to hold on to it here, who's able to make the most of all that work. Dick Miller, you can see getting out of the way in the background.
So that will leave them be as Driscoll finally gets by. Worling has definitely lost out a little bit in the traffic, so despite getting close for a moment, I think he's going to need a little bit of luck on his side to get into this. Incredibly, we still have, it looks like, 30 cars still running here.
Yeah, just about. Justin Morton just had a spin, so he is unfortunately in the pits with major damage to the front wing, so he's not going to be able to get out, so it might be down to 29, but look at this. Andrew Waring looking for a good opportunity on Liam Quinn. Once again, they get back onto the front stretch. This might be an opportunity for a pass, but Waring did not get a good exit this time. He's going to have to just use that draft and maybe a push to pass to try and get by. I think he's content just hanging out back there as we cross the line, 7 to go.
And the first has been used by Challoner. He's down to 9 now. He's starting to feel the pressure to perform here as he starts to suck up all the bonus juice that he has been holding on to. Out onto the Moraine sweep. Quinn looking okay. Waring might get a little bit of the draft here. Neither Quinn or Waring have used their push to passes since we've been following the numbers of those just a few laps ago. It's still 7-3 with Quinn up on Waring.
If Challoner's actually having those overheating issues, using those push passes might be a little bit scary for him. So we'll see if he still just goes at it.
Surprised Waring didn't try and attack down into turn 8 there. He was right up underneath Quinn. Two very different lines between them through the carousel as Quinn leaves the door open slightly.
And that gives a great opportunity for Waring to get some air onto that front right wing. That gives him good speed through the corner. He's got a ton of speed now as they come up to Canada. Let's see whether or not Waring makes the pass. Challoner's going to be right in behind him. Waring's going to make the move. He's going to look to the inside. He's going to try and outbreak him into the corner. He's going to get the job done there. Liam Quinn unable to do the over-under. Waring a little bit twitchy on the exit. They're still going to go side by side.
Oh, nearly touched on the way into Bill Mitchell Bend. Another over-under attempt from Liam Quinn. Can he maybe pull it onto the front stretch? He's a little wide at the apex, and here comes Christian Challoner. Will he use another one of those push-to passes? They've also been joined by Driscoll. He has really caught them. Here goes Quinn. He's got the run on Waring. Looks to the inside. Down into turn 1. It's going to be a drag race. And around the outside, Waring is brave. Braver than brave, as Quinn is not able to make the move despite having the desired line.
Now he's going to be offline. He got a little bit of a shallow entry into the corner, but unfortunately, Christian Challoner unable to do anything with it. This is Brian Bennett they're going by. He's able to hold to the outside. That is the 13th position machine. That's going to be 12 cars on the lead lap, but Steve Driscoll with a good run on Christian Challoner. He's going to look to the outside actually here and try and make the move on the outside. Christian's going to try and pack it in. He's able to get going, but unfortunately, Steve Driscoll with a little bit more of a run. Christian Challoner tucked into the 4th position now.
Wow, Driscoll with a power move down into turn 5. On the front stretch, both Waring and Quinn on the button. They blew another one, but Waring is down to 2. He could be a sitting duck if it comes down to the last lap, because Quinn, 6 laps to go. He can serve to save some of these now.
Just intense battle from all these drivers. Christian Chandler looking like he's going to back off a little bit and maybe cool down those tires and that engine a little bit in the back of this pack. But the further back he goes, the less the engine's going to cool behind these guys. Liam Quinn, though, looks like he's not done with Andrew Waring. He does not want to let Andrew Waring get away. He's tucked in right in under that rear gearbox. Now, the interesting bit is Christian Chandler and Liam Quinn both on the same team, but I hear that they run different styles of sets for each of their drivers. So Liam Quinn might have a little bit more cooling going to that machine as he's tucked in behind Andrew Waring going up towards the start finish line.
Another one for Liam Quinn. He's on the button yet again, and Waring is not. He holds to the outside. Now, this worked for him last time, but he's farther back and up to the lead. Liam Quinn takes that spot away. Waring goes for the over-under, switches back to the inside, down into turn 3, but he can't get the nose along him.
It's going to be really hard for Waring to be able to make that pass and not have Liam Quinn use that push to pass just to defend. I really don't see a way that Waring is going to be able to end out this race in the lead. It's Christian Challenger looking left, right, then back to the right.
And for the lead, once again, Waring around the outside. He knows how to keep that momentum up. Quinn still has the inside up into turn 6, and he can't do anything with it. Waring back to the front.
Well, if you can't do it on speed, you can do it on the brakes. Waring, oh, here we go. Liam Quinn thinking about making a look to the inside. These guys are taking every opportunity. Oh, no. Waring off track there. Quinn able to get by. Driscoll's having to take a look at his teammate there, unable to do anything with it. Waring's going to have to clean off those tires a little bit. Driscoll stuck it behind him. Christian Chandler looking for a place to go as well.
The double-decker UDOC sandwich here with 2 kinetic cars as the bread. They come down towards Canada corner. Another defense from Driscoll as Challenger's going to take a poke. He looks to the inside, and I think he's going to have it if he could just get the power down off the turn. No, it switches back to the inside for Driscoll. Still wheel to wheel down through Bill Mitchell Bend, and he completes the pass. Christian Challenger will not be denied.
But now it's Andrew Waring's opportunity to try and go back on Liam Quinn up for the lead. He gets a bad exit off the corner. Liam trying to break the draft by swerving on the straightaway. It looks like he's able to do so. Liam Quinn looks like he's pulling away quite a bit. Andrew Waring going to have to be content to be behind there. Steve Driscoll still tucked in behind Christian Challenger.
Quinn on the button again, and he's now got 4. Waring has 2. Waring is feeling the effects of being greedy early on.
All right, Dawson, with all this fighting, how are they doing on field? Do you think they're still going to be able to fight like this to the end of the race?
I think so. I think that the strategy was fill it up and let it all hang, and I'm sure that's what these guys are doing. Looking at the way they're racing, it doesn't look like they have any care for fuel strategy. Everybody wants to be out in front. Everybody wants to be in that lead. Nobody cares about staying in the draft or anything like that. I think if that is the case, Christian Challenger's in a great spot, because he's been kind of sitting in the back. But boy, I tell you what, I want to be leading, taking the white flag. I don't want to be sitting in that second place. It's so hard to pass on this last bit of the track, as we see here, the carousel, and then going into Canada, that's really your last shot. We've seen these cars go through the carousel and really get spread out. Look at this. The guys, they just kind of spread out and makes that pass into Canada so much harder. So if I'm one of these guys, I'm trying to take that white flag first.
Challenger, I think, on the button once again. He's down to 6. Here he comes approaching quickly on Waring. Waring's going to defend to the inside. Christian looking for the over-under, and even with the wheel spin from Waring, he holds him off.
And this is where some team play might come into play here. As long as Christian Challenger's fighting with Andrew Waring, Liam Quinn is able to get away. So Christian Challenger down to 6 push to passes. He's going to use another one here, definitely. He's launching out of that final corner. He's going to make the move on Waring. Waring cannot defend.
Challenger is up to 2nd. He has 5 left. Quinn has 3. A slight advantage, as Waring's even going to be passed by Driscoll, who manages to go by. Can he run down his teammate and beat him here today at Road America?
Wow, just a very cold, calculated move there for Christian Challenger, realizing that Waring has not been using push to pass to defend. He was able to make that move and force Waring now down to 4th position. Driscoll, who's been struggling a little bit to get the car turned in on this final stint, is now the one tucked in behind him. And we've got those 2 kinetic drivers up in front of the 2 unorthodox drivers, and this is the last thing the unorthodox drivers wanted to see today.
So it's going to be 2 to go next time by. Oh, and Quinn's used another one. It is down to 3. Challoner down to 4. No, excuse me, Challoner used one because he was at 5 before. So he is really on the move, doing everything he can, using every advantage he has to see if he can get within reach of Quinn at the end. They come down to Canada corner. Let's see if he's... Nope, looks like he stays at 4.
Challoner is flying right now. He's trying. He definitely wants this win. He doesn't care who's up ahead of him. He wants it. You can tell how aggressive he's being with that car. It's both him and Driscoll are being so twitchy on the exits of the corners. They are on the absolute edges of this tire right now.
And let's see if he uses another one. No, Challoner saves it. 2 to go. Is he going to hold on to more of them?
Purple lap for Christian Challoner. He is pushing it right now.
That'd be 6/10 off of his qualifying time of a 42.4.
And also, that is 7/10 faster than Liam Quinn's best lap of the race. Here we go. He uses another, and no defense from Quinn except for covering off the inside. He doesn't use the button. Challoner, who is fully through by the braking, is back up to the top spot, but now they are even on push to pass. It is 3-3 with 2 to go. Who uses it where, and who uses it more effectively?
You have a Dawson being ahead with more push to pass, being ahead with the same push to pass is good. Here we go.
Driscoll.
Steve Driscoll up to the inside. He's really going to dive it in deep there. Liam Quinn's going to try and get the overrunner, but can't get the power down. Driscoll with a fantastic move up the inside, taking Liam Quinn by surprise.
And he used another one right there. So Driscoll's down to 1. And I think Liam Quinn must have used one because he's down to 2.
Mm-hmm. You can maybe see
Yeah,
it.
there it is. He's to the inside, coming to Canada corner. He's going to try and come back at him, but Driscoll is strong on the brakes. Little too strong. He goes wide. Liam Quinn back to the position he wants to be. It's 1 to go, but all that fighting has lost him time. He's 7/10 behind Challoner. Is this too far back to try and catch up to him?
Also, don't look behind right now, but Travis Worling has caught up. It's now a 5-car fight for the lead. I don't think Worling's close enough to get to the lead, but he could definitely take away a podium if these guys aren't careful.
Quinn used one, Driscoll used one, Waring used one. Only Christian Challoner has 2 left in his bank.
Challoner's in a great spot here. Took that white flag as the leader. I said that was going to be the key, and on top of that, he has an extra push to pass when he wants it. Does he use it here?
He does. He's now down to 1. Quinn hasn't used his, so he's going to fall back a little bit. It is currently half a second between them as they come down into turn 5 one last time. Behind them, Driscoll is in 3rd, Waring is in 4th, and Worling is in 5th.
I think Quinn's got to use it coming out of the carousel into Canada. I think that's his last really good opportunity to pass.
Driscoll, Waring, and Worling are all out of their push to passes. That is it. It is up to these 2 in front of them with 1 to go each. Challoner has the advantage. He has the track position. Down and around through the carousel. Does he use it here? Quinn's already used his. Challoner does not yet. Is this going to be enough for Quinn? It's a last-ditch effort. He's starting to gain. Challoner not using it. Is he holding on to it for the exit of the final turn? Quinn closes in, but he can't attack down into Canada corner.
Ooh.
Oh, and he's too hard on the throttle. He catches the car. That is it. Challoner, unless he makes a big error out of the final turn, doesn't even need the push to pass. Christian Challoner from the pole to the victory, but he had to fight for it. Another win for the number 37 car.
And behind them, Andrew Waring made a mistake going through Canada. He's going to give up 4th place to Travis Worling, who's going to be able to get up there in front of him. Wow, what a finish.
Distant 6th place for Clark Archer. The next battle, though, that we have was Jeff Schmeier. Got a problem? No, it doesn't look like it.
That was Wade Hayes slow coming to the line. He had a spin out of the final corner.
In fact, only 10 cars are going to finish on the lead lap, if I'm seeing right.
That's correct.
Boy, things spread apart there at the end. And I think that is it for our battles to the line. Everybody else just streaming in. Swaby in 10th place, going to trundle on home. What a race at the end. It took a while to build up. It took a while to see what the strategy would be, but in the end, it gave us a stunner. And Christian Challoner another win. We'll come back with the unofficial results and then also stick around because we'll have driver interviews, and on screen you can see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Road America. Round 8 in the Majors Series was incredible. It came down to the last lap between 5 drivers, but Christian Challoner racked up another victory as he celebrates here on the start-finish line. Liam Quinn wound up in 2nd place, which you have to give him a huge pat on the back. Even though he didn't take the win, he came from 12th on the grid to do it. Steve Driscoll wound up 3rd, which is exactly where he started, but another driver that had to go through a lot of effort just to get back there. Travis Warling finished P4, with Andrew Waring unfortunately losing out at the very end and finishing in 5th. Clark Archer, 24 seconds behind the leader, considering the top 5 were all within 3 seconds of each other. 6th place still for him. Austin Espedy from 16th to 7th. And you got Michael Morley taking P8 today. And poor Eric Smith, spare a thought for him, started on the front row and wound up in 9th. But Lyndon Swaby, last car on the lead lap, starting from 20th, climbed up to 10th.
Then we have our first car a lap down. Brian Bennett in 11th place with Dick Mueller in 12th. Dick was party to watching quite a few of those battles throughout the race. Jeff Schmeier, after having a tough first half of this race, is able to climb back to 13th position, with Trevor Clement finishing in 14th. Brian McGreevy is going to roll home in 15th position with Nick Coons 16th, and Bradley Haley, after a spin, is going to recover to 17th position with Wade Hayes in 18th spot. Johnny Nichols and Brian Barnes are going to round out your top 20.
Adam Holla gonna start or finish in 21st, Eric Antilli 22nd, then Ryan Steele. Kevin Hill having a rough race. He had the pace at the beginning, but ends up in 24th. David Warner, Wayne Hutchinson, Rob Gall, Jimbo Pfeiffer, Bradley Sexton in 29th, and then Steve Bammer in 30th. We saw him in a couple of situations, still able to complete the race and get points. That was a big part. And then we go into Justin Morton in 31st. I believe he will also make that 3/4 mark and still earn points, but sadly, Lionel Calisto and Bob Beltrami not able to get past that 75% mark. They will not earn any points this week. That rounds out your field, Joe.
Some very talented drivers have tried to stop Christian Challoner, and Christian, not even your own teammate can do it despite coming from 12th on the grid. You had to kind of work for that one, you have to admit.
Yeah, I had to really work for that one. And to be honest, with 5 to go, it really wasn't looking good. I lost that position to Steve down at turn. I'm going to call it turn 3. I don't know if the kinks are classed as turns or whatnot at this place. But yeah, down into turn 3. I was on the inside and I saw him go to the outside. I was like, oh, I'll run the inside here. It'd be easy. And he just drove by me on the outside. And I was like, it was at that point where I just went, why am I here if I'm going to let that kind of thing happen? Like, well, I don't want to finish 4th. So I struggled all race really to get the pace out of the car that I've had in practice. I don't know whether I was just I was really worried about having the spinala and just that being the end of my race. And because of that, I the first run I thought I was the only person saving, and I was like, oh, I'll be able to go to 14 laps and nobody else is going to do it. And nobody pitted on 13, and that was the point where I was like, oh my god, I've got no pace. And then at the end with 5 to go, it just it was kind of at that point where I was like, yeah, I really want to win. And I had enough push to passes to make it work. So yeah, it was definitely difficult. That's really not my wheelhouse, those kind of cars. So I'm glad to get that one.
Well, tell us about that push to pass strategy. Was that something you planned from the very start, or I mean, you saved every single one until what was it, the last 10 laps, I think? How did you manage that?
Yeah, that really was a case of I was just saving them all the way till the end, because I knew with how difficult the passing was that having that kind of advantage in terms of straight line speed was going to make it so much easier. And then after that, to kind of have the ability to defend. Once I got into the lead, I probably had one less than I really wanted at that point, but I wanted enough so that I could always be out of the range at the end of straightaways, and it did work out pretty much exactly as I planned. I feel like I got a little bit lucky. I think Waring kind of had a little moment that let me get the pass on him a bit easier than it otherwise would have been. But it really was a strategy all the way from the beginning to just run the push to pass, use it at the very end.
Said these cars aren't your wheelhouse, but next round is going to be the Knoxville Nationals over onto dirt. And that could be a little bit more chaotic. Are you at all nervous about the streak that you're having maybe ending there?
I definitely think that again the dirt side of things isn't quite my my thing, but at least with those cars, I felt like last year I got a decent handle on it, and I feel like I've gotten better in them. So I think I'm a little more comfortable in those than I am this. And they're a little bit, well, I say they're a little bit less dangerous, but they feel that way to drive. You kind of just flat foot it and work on the wheel most of the time. So that's really going to come down to qualifying and just making sure that you kind of start at the front and then advance your way through the heats kind of that way. And that seems to make it a lot easier, I think.
Well, interesting assessment, and we're looking forward to seeing how you handle the dirt cars once we head over to Tennessee. Again, thanks for coming and talking to us. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
That was our winner, Christian Challoner. And then Adam has caught up with his teammate, Liam Quinn.
Yeah, Liam, it may not have been the win you wanted, but still, 12th to 2nd is nothing to sneeze at. But talk to me about your second stint, because that was truly impressive. You gained a ton of time on the leaders. How'd you pull that off and still pull off a 14-lapper?
I think the 400 laps of practice I've done the last few weeks have something to do with that. When you save fuel properly and use every single inch of fuel you've got, you really save the tyres. And as long as you hit your marks every single lap, you just edge closer and closer. It's a real patient waiting game, to be honest with you. It was tough.
Yeah, and then coming in, and then in that third stint, you were leading for a decent portion of that. How much does that affect the fuel strategy for you, or were you still able to save out front?
I was still able to save. I had a lot of practice in the IndyCar Series race a week or so ago. So I was able to save fuel in places where other guys weren't and braking a lot later. So I think that helped. I felt when I was behind, especially third in line, I was really struggling with the front tyres. So I felt the need to just get to the front as soon as possible, and it seemed to work out pretty well. I think we've got two different set of philosophies with Udox, because they seem to be a lot faster in the corners than us, so getting in front was really important.
Yeah, and then talk to me about that final stint battling with your teammate Christian Challoner and also with Andrew Waring, who was up there trying to make things challenging for you as well. Seemed like you three were having a real duke out there.
Yeah, just insane. Then you see Travis Walling catch up 10 seconds and Steve coming out of nowhere to take second, and oh man. It's very much you give nothing and you take nothing, and everyone gets through just about.
Yeah, well, fantastic finish from you, Liam. Is there anyone you would like to thank today? What a great race.
Just all the Kinetic and Team Talent guys built an absolute rocket ship and really helped with the strategy. So awesome result. I think we got all 3 wins in the region this time, so it's excellent.
Well, fantastic for the points for you guys for sure, and we look forward to seeing you next round.
Cheers.
That was Liam Quinn, our second place finisher, and Dawson Brock has caught up to Steve Driscoll, who finished in third.
Yeah, you were a part of that 4-car train that we kind of saw all race. I want to start out with, how was the fuel saving for you?
It was pretty good. I had about 3/4 of a lap ready to go and spare each time. That's kind of what I was doing. It was all about that last stint, so it was just kind of saving on fuel as long as I didn't lose the pack, and just sat there and bided my time.
So how hectic was it for you in that pack? I know we saw the first couple stints were pretty calm, but then that last one, everything turned up.
Yeah, that last one, it was kind of like putting gasoline on a fireworks display. It was, if nobody was entertained by that, they might as well just quit watching at this point. I got to say, congratulations to Christian, Liam, great job. I mean, it was just, that's as close and tight a racing I've ever had on a high downforce car, and that it was just, clean. It was some give and take, but a hard racing at the same time. Just good stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome to watch. We enjoyed it. That final pit stop, exiting the pits, what was that like for you?
Not fun. I was kind of surprised somebody was sitting right there, but they have their right to the track either. So it was just, stay clean. And the thing is too, with these cars, you can get about a second and a half behind and still catch back up. So, I tried, it was kind of be conservative, but impatient at the same time.
All right, well, it was a great result for you. We had a ton of fun watching, and I'm sure everybody at home did too. Next, well, August 2nd, we got about a month off here. You get to take a relax and kind of, chill out. But we go to Knoxville, and we get to run dirt. How do you feel about that?
I'm feeling pretty good. The Direct Innovations and Simability World of Outlaw 410 Sprint Car, I think, will be pretty good. We were pretty good the last couple of years. Eldora and Knoxville as a team. So it's going to be fun. At the end of the day, that's like jet planes in a gymnasium, and that's probably not anybody's strongest suit. So it's just going to be a fun time, and try to not sustain too much damage in a 40-lap race.
All right, well, appreciate you stopping by and sharing your thoughts. Anybody you want to thank before we kick you out?
No. GSRC, great job. I'm sure it's going to be great to watch in the broadcast. And once again, I got to thank my unorthodox team. And also Kinetic. I mean, that was just good, hard, clean, fun racing, and that's why we come to iRacing to have some fun in the major series. If it wasn't for Mike Ouellette, we wouldn't have this playground to play in. So I just want to appreciate his hard work.
All right, that's Steve Driscoll, Unorthodox Machine. Started third, finished third.
Finally, we've got fifth place finisher Andrew Waring with us. And Andrew, it was almost a spin to win. Tell us about the moment that you had with Eric Smith coming through Bill Mitchell Bend, and suddenly you're facing the wrong way.
Yeah, I thought I saw Steve, get inside of him, and I know how hard it is to get traction off when someone's on the inside, so I figured I could sneak past. And honestly, haven't watched the replay back, but it felt like I gave him enough room. That corner is not flat out when you're single file, so I'm not sure what really happened, but I just went spinning and thankfully didn't hit anything, and then got it back going with, I think I was about 4 seconds back with no damage. Yeah, it was lucky. That's all I can say. No skill there, that's for sure.
Now, at the end, it was down to a 2v2 situation between Udox and Kinetic. How much were you talking to Steve there at the end and trying to coordinate or do anything to work against them, or is it just every man for himself?
It was really every man to themselves. I really felt like I had the pace to win. It just seemed impossible to pull away from the Kinetic guys. I tried a couple of times to get away from Liam, and I could only get away to like 1.1. They were so fast on the straightaway, and my inexperience in the whole service, not being even on here for a year, showed when I only had like 2 push to passes to go. So I pretty much knew I was stuffed, and at that point, I just wanted to, try and maybe hold everybody up so we could get Travis involved, and then yeah, I just tried to race as clean as I could and try and make it a good show. But I kind of knew I wasn't gonna be a contender when I figured Christian and Liam were smart enough to save a bunch of push to passes.
Well, I can tell you as someone who is closing in on a decade of being on iRacing, to be within a year up to the pace of drivers of this caliber, you should be extremely proud of yourself. How do you feel about the dirt coming up? Do you have much experience over on that side here on iRacing yet?
I think I'm rookie rated. I've done
Oh,
like
no.
three. I've done like three maybe street stock races, and they've all ended in tears. So um, I'll have to put in some work. Maybe I don't know. I really don't know what to expect. I struggled at the beginning of the year with the oval stuff, and I feel like I finally kind of found my form. And I'd hate for that to break. So I'll just have to put in the work. And UDocs is a great team to help build a driver's skill and stuff. There's a wide pool of talent there. So we'll just use everything we have at our disposal to be quick there.
Well, here's hoping to the best for that, and you've got plenty of time to practice. Again, congratulations, at least on a top 5.
Thank you.
That was Andrew Waring, who certainly was in the fight for the win. As he said, he could have had it if things turned out just a little bit differently. But an exciting race at the finish. We enjoyed that one. We'll get a little bit of a break here before we come back once again. So we got to thank once again Mike Willett for bringing us in for another season of coverage, and also want to remind you of our charity for this race today, the Myelin Repair Foundation. That is myelinrepair.org. If you don't want to have to type that in, we have a link down in the YouTube description, so just go down and click that. Also, a thank you goes out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts. You can see them listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Adam, Dawson, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media, where our Twitter is @GSR Channel, our Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and the Instagram is @GSRC_Ram. If you'd like to support us, we've also got a merchandise store linked down in the description. It's gsrc.storeenvy.com. And while you're down there, make sure and subscribe to the channel by clicking the big red button that says subscribe. The next race, as we mentioned, will be at the Knoxville Nationals. That's in Iowa, by the way, not Tennessee, like I said earlier, different Knoxville. That'll be Sunday, August 2nd, though, 7:45 p.m. Eastern. So get a little bit of a breather as we start to see some real-world racing come back to the fray. So enjoy some of that before we come back to virtual racing. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Poor Sean's going to take a break now after a long day, but until next time, race clean, race hard, see you on the track.